Alliance Master Yen, what I said is true and not a joke. When I went to check the various checkpoints today, I discovered that the Yen clan's encampment opposite, Yun Chujio recounted what had happened. Seeing that she did not look like she was joking, Alliance Master Yen got someone to gather Mountain Master Zhua and the others over. Then he got Yun Chujio to recount her thoughts. When everyone heard Yun Chujio's words, they immediately exploded. The head of the Fan family hated Yun Chujio to death in his heart. Now that he finally had an opportunity, he naturally wouldn't let it go. He sneered and said, "Alliance Master Lung, although your judgment last time was correct and you've made a great contribution, you can't be too arrogant. The Yen clan isn't a fool. How could they do such a stupid thing? Besides, the Yen clan could have mobilized their troops after nightfall. Why did they gather their troops last night? Aren't they afraid that we'll find out? Moreover, your judgment is only based on the splendor grass and bushes. This is too childish." The others also echoed, "Yes, Chief Lung. Your deduction is too arbitrary. The Yen clan is cunning and cunning. How could they make such a low-level mistake? You scolded them, but they didn't say anything. They just saw through your intentions, so they didn't fall for it. And those splendor grass and bushes. They probably stepped on them when they passed by, so they can't be counted." No matter how Yun Chujio explained and proved, apart from Mountain Master Zhao of the Fire Peak, no one else agreed with He Xinjia's thoughts. He Xinjia was furious. As expected, what she said was right. They weren't afraid of a godlike enemy, but they were afraid of a pig-like opponent. Such a good opportunity to heavily injure the nightmare race, yet they didn't grasp it. This was truly infuriating. Just as Yun Chujio was about to say something, the head of the Fan family coldly snorted, "Is this an excuse for your alliance to be afraid of the nightmare race launching an attack? Do you think we are all fools? If you are afraid of death, you should say so as soon as possible. It's not like our alliance doesn't have people." Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes and said, "The head of the Fan family really has sharp eyes. You are right. Our alliance is afraid of death. Since the head of the Fan family is so brave, he can take over our alliance. Our freelance martial artist alliance can have some free time." Alliance Master Yen quickly tried to smooth things over. "Alliance Master Lung, the head of the Fan family doesn't mean that. Your freelance martial artist alliance is brave and good at fighting. Why would you be afraid of the Nightmare Clan? Alliance Master Yen, you think too highly of our freelance martial artist alliance. Our freelance martial artist alliance isn't a regular army to begin with. Naturally, we're not as brave as the alliance army. I was too embarrassed to mention it at first, but now that the head of the Fan family has suggested it, I will take advantage of the situation. The Baleful Wind Gap is easy to attack but hard to defend. Our loose cultivator alliance doesn't want to defend anymore. Either give us another pass or give us a few days off and let us rest." At first, Alliance Master Yen was still trying to persuade her, but after he had said all the good words, Yun Chujio still looked like a scoundrel. Alliance Master Yen was also furious. "Alliance Master Ling, since your unaffiliated cultivator alliance is so cowardly, there's no need for you to help guard the pass. Go ahead." Yun Chujio shrugged indifferently. Go ahead. Alliance Master Yen, quickly send someone to replace us. Our unaffiliated cultivator alliance has been training too hard recently. Find a place to rest and recuperate." Alliance Master Yen was absolutely furious. He slammed the table. "I will immediately send someone to replace your unaffiliated cultivator alliance. Go ahead, I won't send you off." Hearing Alliance Master Yan's words, Yun Chujio gave a perfunctory bow and then turned around to leave the meeting tent. Alliance Master Yen was so angry that he was about to explode. If it weren't for the fact that the unaffiliated cultivator alliance didn't belong to the alliance army, he would definitely have dealt with that Lung Xiaoju properly. Going back on his words and treating such a major matter like fighting against the Nightmare Clan as a child's game was really too much. The head of the Fan family fanned the flames and said, "Alliance leader, I've said before that this Lung Xiaojio's background isn't right. Now that I look at it, he really doesn't have any sense of the big picture. Just because we didn't agree with her opinion, she's using this to blackmail us. She's really too arrogant." The others also echoed in succession. In the past, they thought that although this Lung Xiaojio was a little greedy, he wasn't bad. They didn't expect that he would actually cause such a ruckus now. It was really disappointing. They did not know why the people of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance chose such a ridiculous alliance leader. It was really hard to understand. After Yun Chujio returned to the Wind Gap, she said angrily to the people of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance. The Alliance said that we are not a regular army. They said that our Freelance Martial Artist Alliance is just a bunch of mobs. The moment we came, we asked them to guard the Wind Gap. This Wind Gap is easy to attack but hard to defend. They are bullying us because we are outsiders. I won't serve them anymore. Someone will come to replace us in a while. They'll bring you to drink and eat meat. Although the people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance were angry, they felt that it was a little inappropriate to act so impulsively. After all, they had come to fight against the Nightmare Clan. Leaving just like that was a little too casual. Unfortunately, no one dared to challenge Hei Xinjia's authority. After the people sent by the Alliance army took over the windbreak, Hei Xinjio led the people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance and left the windbreak. And Linchuan and Shangguan Hao were dumbfounded. They were not from the Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators, so where should they go now? And Linchuan eagerly went to Yun Chujia's side and asked in a low voice, "Little Jiao Chiefling, are you really going to leave the vast desert?" Hei Xinjio glared at him. "Who said that I'm going to leave the vast desert?" And Linchuan was stunned. Then where are you going?" "Yuan Shi from Feng Doshan has lost the command to me. I'll bring you to Feng Doshan for a walk." Hei Xinjio said with a smile. Leng Kuei snorted coldly. "What are you trying to do? Why are you going to Feng Doshan when you can't even keep your mouth shut?" "Vice Alliance leader Leng Datu, you'd better shut up. I have my own plans. Otherwise your name will spread throughout the Alliance army." Hei Xinjio knew Leng Kuei the best. As long as he could catch him, he would be obedient. Sure enough, Leng Kuei snorted and didn't say anything. While Yuan Shi was inspecting the defenses on Feng Doshan, a subordinate rushed over. "General Yuan, Alliance leader Leng from the Alliance of Non-Affiliates has brought people from the Alliance of Non-Affiliates to the foot of our mountain. She said she wants to take over Feng Doshan." Yuan Shi. He had indeed lost the command of Feng Doshan to Leng Xiaojiao, but he didn't take it seriously. After all, this command was given to him by the Alliance army, so it was impossible for him to really hand it over to her. "Tell him that I don't have time to see her." Yuan Shi said that she couldn't afford to offend her and could hide. The subordinate hesitated for a moment and then said, "General, Alliance leader Leng said that if you don't see her, she will go to the Miss of the Hun Yuan sect to have a chat." Hearing that, Yuan Shi immediately ran to the foot of the mountain to pick up Hei Xinjio. At the foot of Feng Do Mountain, Hei Xinjio was rolling her eyes as she thought of an idea. Since Alliance Master Yan's group of old fogies could not persuade her, then she could only use her own method to solve it. If she did not evacuate the people of the Freelance Martial Alliance from the Killing Wind Gap, then there would only be death tonight. Their Freelance Martial Alliance had been pieced together in the first place and was not a match for the main force of the Nightmare Clan at all. Of course, she would not let the Alliance army that had taken their place to die either. He had to think of a way to break this deadlock. This fellow wanted to force all the generals at the pass to listen to her words. But firstly, it was not very maneuverable. Secondly, if she did that, even if they really won, those generals would probably be completely disgraced in front of Alliance Master Yan and the other big shots. Before Hei Xinjio could come up with a plan, Yuan Shi ran over from the top of the mountain. Yuan 11 had heard from his subordinates that Leng Xiaojiao had brought people to take over his Feng Do mountain. He had thought that she had only brought a few people, but from the looks of it, there were thousands of people. What was Leng Xiaojiao up to? Was she going to rebel? "Alliance Master Leng, what are you doing? You have brought people here. What about the storm vent?" Yuan Shi asked in surprise. "I've already given the windbreak to someone else to guard. I think your Feng Doshan is pretty good, so I plan to stay in your Feng Doshan for a few days," Hei Xinjio said with a smile. Yuan Shi was dumbfounded. What did she mean by his Feng Doshan was pretty good? Was she really planning to take over the Magpie's Nest? "Alliance Master Leng, don't joke around. Did the Alliance order you to take over my Feng Doshan? Pass me the document." Yuan Shi thought that Yun Chujio came with the Alliance army document. Sigh. "General Yuan, you are right. It is true that Alliance Master Yen gave me a document to take over, but my spiritual pet was mischievous and accidentally burned it. Do you think you can make an exception?" Yun Chujio said as she took out the little black bird to take the blame. Xiao Hanyo rolled its eyes. "Who did it offend? This is easy. I will send someone to Alliance Master Yen to verify it." Yuan 11 had already believed more than half of it. After all, he did not expect He Xinjiu to dare to tell such a big lie. Yun Chuju looked at the sky and said, General Yuan, look at the sky. It is already dark. This trip will take a lot of time. Why don't you send someone tomorrow morning? Besides, Alliance Master Yan did not give you any other mission. You can stay in Fangdoshan for now. I don't mind. Yuanshi was still a little skeptical. He looked at Shangguan Hao. He trusted Shangguan Hao more, so he asked, Young hero Shangguan, is what Alliance Master Ling said true? Shangguan Hao refused to answer the question in his heart, but since the question had already reached his head, he could only say, yes, it's true. When Yuanshi saw that Shangguan Hao had confirmed it, there was no longer any doubt in his heart. He happily allowed He Xinjiu and the others to enter Fangdo Mountain. The people from the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance were even more impressed by their Alliance Master He Xinjiu. Damn it, their Alliance Master He Xinjiu was too good at deceiving people. How could she have tricked them into entering Fangdo Mountain just like that? But why did she bring them into Fangdoshan? Just to find a place to stay? He Xinjiu brought her people into Fangdoshan and then said to Yuan 11 with a smile, General Yuan, what I said just now was actually a lie. I don't have Alliance Master Yan's document. Yuanshi was stunned at first, then said with a smile, Alliance Master Lung, don't joke around. It's a big crime to impersonate Alliance Master Yan's order to take over the pass. Do you think I would believe it? He Xinjiu rolled her eyes at Yuanshi. Believe it or not, if you don't, then forget it. I'll tell you the truth, I estimate that tonight, the Yan clan will use all their forces to launch a sneak attack on the Shaofeng port. Therefore, I suggested to Alliance Master Yan that all the passes of our alliance army should surround the Yan clan without anyone knowing. They will definitely be able to severely injure the Yan clan, but since Alliance Master Yan doesn't believe my words, I can only do it myself. Yuan Zai's heart sank. Was what Ling Xiaoju said true? Did she really not have Alliance Master Yan's document? Was she lying to him? Yuan Zai's head buzzed. If what Ling Xiaoju said was true, then he had committed a grave crime. You get out. Quickly take your people and leave Fangdo Mountain. Yuanshi will pretend that nothing happened, Yuanshi said through gritted teeth. Have you heard of a saying? It's easy to invite the gods but difficult to send them off. We are already here. Do you want us to get out? No way. Besides, you have already made a mistake now. You can only atone for your sins by doing meritorious deeds. Moreover, the young miss of the primordial chaos sect. Shut up. What on earth do you want to do? Yuanshi wished he could strangle the little girl in front of him to death. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. I'm thinking about how to get rid of those scum from the Yan clan. This is a once-in-lifetime opportunity. It would be a pity to miss it like this. Moreover, once the Yan clan really takes down the malefic vent, the human race's defensive line will be completely defeated. After a mental struggle, Yuan 11 had no choice but to accept his fate. He frowned and asked, Your Freelance Martial Artist Alliance only has over 3,000 people, and our Fangdo Shan only has 1,200 people. Our combined forces are probably only 1/5 of the Nightmare clans. What can we do? Why don't I send people to keep an eye on the situation at the windbreak? Once the Nightmare clan launches an attack, we'll help the windbreak resist the Nightmare clan. We should be able to wait for reinforcements to arrive. Yun Chujio shook her head. You are talking about the worst-case scenario. Moreover, Fangdo Shan is too close to the windbreak. If the Yan clan cannot take down the windbreak, it is very likely that they will move to Fangdo Shan. At that time we will have to take care of one thing and lose the other. The situation will be even worse. Ling Kuei could not hold it in any longer. This won't do. That won't do either. What do you want to do? Yun Chujio's eyes flashed with coldness. Kill. Everyone looked at each other. What did she mean by saying kill without thinking? Yun Chujio chimed in with her own thoughts. Everyone was instantly stunned. Could this work? Everyone tried to persuade her, but unfortunately, He Xinjiu had already made up her mind. Everyone could only nod and agree. After the sky had completely darkened, He Xinjiu led in Linchuan, Shangguan Hao and dozens of experts from the Loose Cultivator Alliance down the rope to the side of the Fangdo Mountain near the Yan clan. And Linchuan's little heart was beating non-stop. He felt that he was already bold enough. He didn't expect that junior sister Little Nine would be so bold as to come up with such a risky idea. Little Nine, Alliance Chief, how confident are you? And Lin Chuan almost spilled the beans, so he had no choice but to change it to little 9. 100%. And Lin Chuan, you're strong. However, hearing Yun Chujio say this, and Lin Chuan and Shangguan Hao felt much more at ease. Everyone made their way to the Nightmare Race's encampment opposite Fong Do Mountain. Yun Chujio gestured to the back and everyone understood. A portion of them went around to the other side of the encampment and deliberately made a ruckus. Very soon, a Nightmare Race encampment shouted sternly, "Who's there?" A few soldiers stationed in the Nightmare clan walked to the other side suspiciously. Who would have thought that there was still an ambush behind them? In just a short moment, a few soldiers stationed in the Nightmare clan had already died. Yun Chujio followed the same pattern and dealt with a few more soldiers stationed in the Nightmare clan. Only when she was certain that there were no fish that had escaped the net did Yun Chujio finally heave a sigh of relief. It looked like her judgment was correct. The Yen clan had indeed gathered all their main forces to the Killing Wind. Because the Yen clan had a secret communication technique, Yun Chujio was afraid that the news would leak out, so she did not leave the Yen clan alive to interrogate them. And Lin Chuan said with a face full of admiration, "Alliance Chief Little Jiu, I have to hand it to you. You are simply inhuman. You are a god." Yun Chujio did not pay attention to this idiot. She searched the Yen clan's garrisons but did not find anything else. This guy rolled his eyes. The Yen clan had a secret communication technique. If there was no response, they might send people over to check. To be safe, it was better to leave some people behind. Hence, Yun Chujio left a dozen people behind and instructed them to wait until the battle started before leaving. After Yun Chujio made the arrangements, she then left the Yen clan's base with her people and returned to the foot of Fong Do Mountain. Yuan 11 and the others were waiting anxiously. When they saw that Yun Chujio and the others were safe and sound, they finally heaved a sigh of relief. Yun Chujio threw the corpse of the Nightmare clan's base onto the ground. "General Yuan, do you believe me now? There's not much time left, let's split up and move out. Now, go to the Alliance Army's tent as fast as you can and report this matter to Alliance Master Yen. I will bring my men and wipe out all the Nightmare clan's bases across the few passes. This way, after you get the document, the Alliance Army at the few passes will be able to quickly rush to the Shafeng mouth. Oh right, bring the corpses of the Yen clan's encampment to Alliance Master Yen, lest those old fogies still don't believe it." The corners of Yuan Zai's eyes twitched. He did not need Yun Chujio to say anything more, he would do his best. Because this was the only way to make up for his mistakes. Otherwise, Alliance Master Yen would definitely punish him for his crimes. The sky grew darker and darker and it was finally midnight. Inside the Yen clan's meeting tent, the Yen clan's crown prince's fingers were rhythmically tapping on the table. "Darn girl, this crown prince has waited for so many days and it's finally time to kill you. Let's see how arrogant you will be when the time comes." "Crown Prince, just now a subordinate reported that when we were in routine contact with a few stations, we discovered that there were a few stations that did not reply. Will there be any problems?" The commander of the Yen clan's army, Mo Luan, said with some worry. He did not approve of the Nightmare Race's Crown Prince's operation this time. It was really too risky. If it succeeded, it would naturally be very good. But if it failed, the human race would form an encirclement, and their Nightmare Race would suffer heavy losses. The Crown Prince's courage was really too great. The Nightmare Race's Crown Prince frowned. He did not think that the human race had the courage and boldness to give up the other passes to surround and annihilate them. But for the sake of safety, he said, "Then send a few people to take a look. After all, Fong Do Mountain is not too far from here." Very soon it was midnight. "Crown Prince, there has been no news of the people we sent previously. This is really a little strange. Why don't we postpone the operation for a while?" Mo Luan advised. The Crown Prince of the Yen clan snorted coldly. "The vast desert is different from other places. Our Yen clan's secret arts will sometimes fail. Perhaps we just happened to catch up this time. If the humans had sensed it, we wouldn't have been unaware of it at all. If we had missed this opportunity, it would have been even more difficult to break through the human defense line. There's no need to say any more. Give the order to set off." Mo Luan didn't dare to persuade her anymore and could only send the order. The general of the Alliance Army at the mouth of the wind was Elder Lu from the Fire Peak of the Sky Killing Sect. Before he came, Mountain Master Zhao had secretly told him Yun Chujio's guess. Although Elder Lu felt that Yun Chujia's guess wasn't very reliable, he still felt uneasy. Therefore he personally guarded the mountain peak at night to prevent the nightmare race from ambushing him. When Elder Lu was patrolling the mountain, he heard a subordinate exclaim, "Elder Lu, look." Elder Lu looked in the direction that the subordinate was pointing at. Under the night sky, there were countless black shadows moving. In the blink of an eye, they were already very close to the windbreak. Elder Lu's heart sank. The Yen clan had indeed launched a sneak attack. Moreover, the scale of the attack was so large. Clearly it was just like what Ling Xiaojie had said. The Nightmare clan had gathered almost all their forces to attack the windbreak. Elder Liu's heart was anxious, afraid and a little angry. The targets of his anger were naturally Alliance Master Yen and the others. Ling Xiaojie had said it clearly, but they didn't believe it. They were simply a bunch of old fools. But now Ling Xiaojie had led the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance to retreat, and they were the unlucky ones. However, it was useless to say all that. Elder Lu hurriedly sent his fastest subordinate to deliver a letter to Alliance Master Yen while he organized his men to stop the attack of the Nightmare race. Although he knew that they wouldn't be able to hold on for even a quarter of an hour. After all, the windbreak was easy to attack but hard to defend. Moreover, their numbers were insignificant compared to the Nightmare race's army, but for the sake of the Immortal Essence continent, they still had to go all out. As expected, the Nightmare race was like a hot knife through butter. The troops guarding the windstorm vent led by Elder Lu quickly lost their ability to resist. A moment later, the Nightmare beasts and the Nightmare race's army had already climbed halfway up the windstorm vent. The Nightmare race's crown prince stood behind them. A trace of doubt flashed across his face. During the day, the windstorm vent was still guarded by Lung Xiaojie's loose cultivator alliance. Why was there a change now? However, he thought about it and decided that it didn't matter. Even if that damned Ling Xiaojie wasn't at the windstorm vent, he would be able to capture her sooner or later after the human defense line was broken through. The crown prince of the Nightmare race was quite proud. The Nightmare race had been hiding in the far west for so many years. His father had always been cautious. If it weren't for his insistence, the Nightmare race would still be curled up in the far west. Why? They were both born with the spirit of all living things. How could the human race occupy all the resources of the Immortal Essence continent? Did the Nightmare race have to hide in the far west like a rat in the dark? It was unfair. The strong preyed on the weak. This was the law of all living things. The Nightmare race had to rely on their fists to take back everything that belonged to them. When the Nightmare race crown prince thought of this, the light in his eyes grew even brighter. He waved his hand. Strengthen our offensive. We will attack the windbreak within 15 minutes. Yes. The Nightmare race's offensive became increasingly fierce. Elder Lu could not hold on any longer. The logs and rolling stones that had been prepared at the top of the mountain had already been used up. Their spiritual energy attacks did not cause any substantial damage to the enormous Nightmare race army. The windbreak was in danger. At this moment, chaos suddenly broke out behind the Nightmare race army. Accompanied by the screams of the Nightmare race, the unified shouts were especially pleasing to the ears. The Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators specializes in killing the Nightmare race. Little Ninth Alliance leader invincible in the world. Elder Liu's heart shook. Ling Xiaojie? Didn't she run away with the Alliance of Itinerant Cultivators? How could she suddenly appear behind the Nightmare race army? Wasn't this the same as sending herself to her death? The Nightmare race's crown prince was stunned at first, then he stood on top of a gigantic nightmare beast and looked behind him. Under the night sky, he saw a woman dressed in red standing in front of a team with a smile on her face. Her silver mask reflected a cold light. The crown prince's heart felt as if it had been pricked by something. For a moment his heart was beating like a drum. He attributed this to the excitement of meeting his enemy. Finally he could kill this Ling Xiaojie. As long as he killed her he would be able to get rid of the Nightmare Lord's worries. This Ling Xiaojie actually took the initiative to send herself to her death. He was really stupid. Hey, the farting crown prince, come over here. I have something to say to you. He Xinjiu stood on a small mound and waved at the Nightmare Lord's crown prince. The farting crown prince? The Nightmare Lord's crown prince gritted his teeth in anger. He angrily commanded his Nightmare Lord to walk to the end of the team. Of course, the Nightmare Lord's attack on the Windbreaker had not stopped. This Leng Xiaoju was just a piece of cake. He would be dealt with very quickly. The crown prince of the nightmare race arrived in front of Yun Chujio and snorted coldly. Leng Xiaoju, you sure have guts. You actually brought your men and ran to the rear of our nightmare race's army. Aren't you afraid of death? I'm not stupid. Of course I'm afraid of death. A person only has one life, so of course I have to cherish it. That's why I've always cherished my life, He Xinjiu said with a smile. The crown prince of the nightmare race snorted coldly. Humph. Since you're afraid of death, why did you run to the back of our nightmare race's army? Sigh. By the way, what's your name? I can't keep calling you the arrogant crown prince, can I? The crown prince of the nightmare race was stunned. Although he had a name, it seemed that after he was born his name was only used very rarely. For example, during sacrificial ceremonies or various ceremonies, so much so that he almost forgot his own name. The crown prince of the nightmare race paused for a moment, but still said, Aog. Aog. Tsk, this name is too difficult to pronounce. Look at how easy it is to remember my name. Little Jiu, I can't forget it even if I want to. Also, my deputy chief's name is also very good. Lung Datu Tske, how down to earth. Whether it was the people from the unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance or the Nightmare Race's army, the corners of everyone's mouths twitched. This Lung Little Jiu's aesthetic sense was really extraordinary. A trace of stiffness flashed across the face of the Nightmare Race's crown prince, and then he said coldly, cut the crap. If you have nothing to say, then let's start the war. The Nightmare Race members behind the Nightmare Race crown prince. Crown Prince, are you not thinking clearly? This Ling Xiaojiu is a human. Why are you wasting your breath on her? Just quickly order them to kill her. It's like this. That Aog, we didn't get to know each other last time. I think you're quite pleasing to the eye, so I'm here to inform you. You might not know this, but we humans have already seen through your schemes, so the army will arrive soon. At that time your nightmare race will be surrounded and annihilated by us. On account of the fact that we have known each other, I will let you live. Take your men and leave immediately. Otherwise, when the army arrives, you will be dead. Yun Chujio said in a tone that said, I'm doing this for your own good. The Nightmare Race army was instantly in an uproar. What? The humans had already known about their plan? How was this possible? Aoj's heart tightened. However, his eyes flickered a few times before he laughed coldly. Ling Xiaoju, you are really cunning. Do you think that you can scare me away by making up such a lie? You're really too naive. If you humans know our plan, why don't you surround us now? You should know that now is the best time to attack from the inside and the outside. It just so happens that you are trying to surround us, so you are just scaring us. Why don't you listen to my advice? Alright, since you don't believe me, I have no choice. Then let's start the battle. Do you want to fight alone or in a group? He Xinjiu crossed her shoulders and pouted. Aog pointed at Yun Chujio. Let's fight alone. Today I'll send you to hell. I'm sorry. If you want to fight one-on-one, find someone else. I'm afraid of death. After He Xinjiu said that, she slithered into the team of the Freelance Martial Artist Alliance. AOG. The Freelance Martial Artist Alliance, the Nightmare Race Army. It was the first time AOG had encountered such a rogue enemy. He gritted his teeth in anger. Go. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. The Nightmare Race army thought to themselves that they should have done this a long time ago. Their crown prince seemed to have lost his mind. He had been flirting with that Ling Xiaojiu for almost 15 minutes. This was a battlefield. A tiny bit of time could decide the outcome of the battle. Before the Nightmare Race army could charge forward, they heard He Xinjiu say in a clear voice, My minions, the wind is strong, pull it. Then the Nightmare Race army was stunned to see that the people of the Loose Cultivator Alliance and their chief He Xinjiu had run away. Aog immediately recalled what had made him gnash his teeth the last time. This Ling Xiaojiu was full of evil. Could it be that he had set up an ambush somewhere? Thus Aog gritted his teeth. Ignore them and continue to attack the storm vent. Your Highness, the garrison at the storm vent has suddenly increased by quite a number of people. But it shouldn't exceed 5,000 people, Mo1 reported. Aoj's heart sank. Was it really like what Ling Xiaojiu had said, that the human race was preparing to surround and annihilate them? No, definitely not. That Ling Xiaojiu must be spouting nonsense and stalling for time. If the human race had been prepared, why would they wait until now? Step up the offensive. We must take down the windbreaker at all costs. Yes. Just as Aoji finished his instructions, Hei Shinjio ran back with the alliance of itinerant cultivators. Hey Aoji, I'm not lying to you. The human army will be here soon. You'd better run with your men or you'll be dead for sure. You look like a dog. It would be a pity if you really died. You haven't married yet, have you? If you die, won't there be no descendants? It's very pitiful just thinking about it. Aoji gritted his teeth in anger. However, as soon as he led his men forward, Hei Shinjio used the same trick and ran away again. Aoji was in a dilemma. Let's go after her. He was afraid that he would be ambushed by Hei Shinjio. Let's not go after her. This guy was too infuriating. After struggling for a few times, many allied troops suddenly appeared from the south and north. The number of people on the windscreen also increased abruptly and rushed down. Aoji's head buzzed. Oh no. The humans actually knew about his plan. At this moment, Hei Shinjio returned once again, giggling happily. Hey, Aoji, didn't I tell you just now? The allied troops are about to surround and annihilate you, but you refuse to listen. There's really no other way. Of course, the reason why I flirted with you just now was to stall for time. Otherwise, our army wouldn't be able to make it here in time. Don't you think you're stupid? Haha. Aoji's eyes were as red as blood as he said word by word. Lung Xiaojiu, I won't forgive you. Just you wait. Who doesn't know how to talk big? I advise you to save your strength. You're going to die soon. How pitiful. Hei Xinjia's smile was very bright. Retreat. Although Aoji wished he could cut Yunchujio into 1,000 pieces, the most important thing now was to break out of the encirclement quickly. Otherwise, once the human race surrounded them, the nightmare race would definitely suffer heavy losses. Yunchujio naturally would not let him escape so easily. She commanded the Loose Cultivator Alliance to go forward and stop the nightmare race army. This fellow stood at the back and stretched her neck to command. He was very confident. As a waste of the 6th level of the Lingxian realm, it was better for her to stand at the back and command. After all, everyone had higher spiritual power than her. Soon the coalition army joined the battle and both sides fell into a chaotic battle. Aoji's regret could be imagined. Firstly, he regretted that he had not contacted the garrison troops at the other checkpoints and should not have launched an attack rashly. Secondly, he should not have said so much nonsense to that Ling Xiaoju just now. If it were not for the fact that he had delayed her for a long time, they might have already taken over the storm vent by now. The more Aoji thought about it, the more he hated Yunchujio to the bone. His malicious gaze was fixed on Hei Shinjio, who was standing on the mound, stretching her neck and shouting. If it were not for this Ling Xiaojiu, he could have taken over the yellow mud mound last time because of her. Yunchujio stood on the mound and felt a cold gaze. She fixed her eyes on it and bared her little white teeth. She liked the way she looked at Yunchujio and could not get rid of her. It was fucking awesome. Aoji saw Yunchujio's fearless look and felt even more hatred in his heart. He bit his index finger and formed a seal with his hands. Mo Luan, who was beside Aoji, saw this and exclaimed, "Your Highness. You stop. This is a forbidden spell of the Yen clan. If you use it, it will shorten your lifespan." Aoji's personality was aloof and prideful. He would not listen to his dissuasion and kept waving his hands. Hei Shinju saw Aoji's actions from afar. Although she did not know what secret technique Aoji was using, she did not stop him from causing trouble. "Who is that? Quick, stop that fart, Crown Prince. All of you attack together. Don't let him succeed." Some people from the Loose Cultivator Alliance and the Allied Army heard Yunchuji's shout and wanted to stop Aoji. However, Aoji was surrounded by a large number of Nightmare Race members. They had no way of getting close to him. A moment later, Aoji's eyes turned bright red like blood, and his long black hair instantly turned silver. His entire person was indescribably demonic. Yunchuji's heart jumped and her scalp went slightly numb. This was a sign of danger. However, she felt that Aoji was thousands of feet away from her, so he should not be able to do anything to her. Thus, she only increased her vigilance and did not retreat. At this moment, Aoji's figure turned into a phantom like a ghost. In the blink of an eye, he appeared behind Yunchujio and knocked her out with a hand knife. Before Hei Shinjio fainted, she only had time to think of one sentence. "Fuck, this is too much. Stop or I'll kill Ling Xiaojio," Aoji said darkly while grabbing Yunchujio's neck. The people on the battlefield suddenly stopped moving. The people of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance were stunned when they saw their black-hearted alliance master fall into Aoji's hands. They were quite conflicted. Logically speaking, they were all forced by Yunchujio, but after spending time together, they felt that it was not bad to follow this black-hearted alliance master. End a novel. After a moment of hesitation, most of the people of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance shouted, "Let our alliance master go." Alliance Master Yen had also arrived at this moment. Seeing the situation, he quickly said, "Let Ling Xiaojiu go. We have something to discuss. Ask your people to make way and let our Yen clan's people pass. Otherwise you'll have to wait to collect Ling Xiaojiu's corpse." Aoji said coldly. Alliance Master Yen hesitated. This was a great opportunity to annihilate the Yen clan. If they let the tiger return to the mountain, they would have to ascend to the heavens if they wanted to severely wound the Yen clan. However, putting aside the fact that Ling Xiaojiu was the one who came up with this plan, just her identity as the alliance master of the Unaffiliated Cultivator Alliance could not be ignored by him. What should he do? The head of the Fan family rolled his eyes, stepped forward and said, "Alliance leader, there is no need to care about trivialities in the face of righteousness. Sacrificing Ling Xiaojiu alone can save the entire Immortal Essence continent. Her death is worthy of the name." Bullshit. Junior sister Xiaojiu has worked so hard for the Immortal Essence continent, yet you still want to sacrifice her? Have you fed your conscience to the dogs? Are you holding a grudge against junior sister Xiaojiu because your son and grandson have defected? You old fart. And Lin Chuan was so angry that he stomped his feet and cursed. He had also forgotten to cover up Yunchuji's identity. However, everyone didn't have the time to think about it. After all, Ling Xiaojiu was Xiaojiu. The Fan family's patriarch's old face turned red from Lin Chuan's scolding. He was so angry that he was trembling. "How dare you? Even your father can't talk to me like that. I'm doing this for the people of the Immortal Yuan continent. I have a clear conscience." Mountain Master Zhuo quickly reprimanded Lin Chuan, telling him not to act rashly. And Lin Chuan was so anxious that he was about to cry. "Mountain Master Zhuo, Ling Xiaojiu is junior sister Xiaojiu. Please save her." "What? Ling Xiaojiu is Yunchujiu?" Mountain Master Zhuo and the others said in surprise. "It's true. Junior sister Xiaojiu could have stayed safely in the Chaos Origin sect. Why did she risk her life to come here? Wasn't it because of the Immortal Yuan continent? Wasn't it because of revenge for her fellow disciples of the Primordial Chaos sect and the Killing Yuan sect? Now that she's been captured, you can't just leave her to die." And Lin Chuan said with a sobbing tone. He understood in his heart that the reason why Yunchujiu took the risk to come here was not only because of the above reasons, but also because little ninth junior sister was worried about his and Shangguan Hao's safety. Otherwise, she wouldn't have specially transferred them to her side. Although the people of the Primordial Chaos sect and the Murderous Origin sect were a little surprised, they were not too surprised. After all, this Ling Xiaojiu's style of doing things was too similar to Yunchuji's bad news bag. The Primordial Chaos sect and the Murderous Origin sect occupied more than half of the allied forces. Immediately, everyone's stance became clear. Yunchujiu must be saved. People's hearts were biased. Compared to an unfamiliar Ling Xiaojiu and a disciple of their own sect, the status of a disciple was naturally higher, even if that disciple was a bad news bag. The Fan family head was so angry that his old face was twisted. So it was that troublemaker Yunchujiu. No wonder she had been targeting the Fan family. It was really detestable. However, even though he wished that Yunchujiu would be killed by Aog, he did not dare to risk offending the Primordial Chaos sect and the Murderous sect, so he could only remain silent. Alliance Master Yen had a good impression of Yunchujiu. Now that the Primordial Chaos sect and the Murderous sect had made their stance clear, he took the opportunity to say to Aog, "I can let you go, but we have to ensure Yunchuji's safety." Aog had heard the conversation of the human race clearly. So this stinky girl was Yunchujiu? No wonder he was fooled. Aog sneered, "Now the initiative is in my hands. Cut the crap. If you don't want her to die, quickly move aside." Alliance Master Yen gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to let everyone move aside, he heard Aog groan. Then the little girl who had fainted entered a huge bastard shell. Everyone was shocked by this sudden change. Ling Xiaojiu, no, didn't Yun Chuju just pass out? How did she suddenly break free from Aoji's control? But what the hell was the big bastard on the ground? Aoji was the first to react. The first thing he did was to give the bastard a palm strike. However, even though his spiritual power had increased greatly after he used the Yen clan's forbidden technique, this palm strike did not cause any damage to Wang Bachi. Then He Xinjia's arrogant voice came from inside Wang Bachi. You fart prince, how dare you hold me hostage? Pui. Not a single one of you Yen clan can escape today. What are you all standing there for? Kill them all. Aoji kicked the turtle shell in anger. The turtle shell was fine, but he took a deep breath in pain. What the hell was this thing? Why was it so hard? Aoji pulled out his sword and slashed at the turtle shell again, but there was still no damage to the turtle shell. When Aoji was about to stab again, the humans had already pounced on him, so he had no choice but to command the Yen clan to fight. He Xinjiu hid in the turtle shell. She was glad that the Black Pearl had woken her up at the critical moment. Otherwise, if she had fallen into the hands of the farting crown prince, she would have died a horrible death. She did not think that Aoji would let her go if the humans made way. Perhaps he would kill her before he left. The place where this fellow was now was surrounded by the Yen clan's people and the Yen beasts. She did not dare to leave the turtle shell. She could only open a crack in the turtle shell and poke it secretly, trying to escape from the Yen clan's encirclement. Aoji turned around and saw that the big turtle shell was already 3 meters away. He slapped the shell in anger. He Xinjiu immediately became obedient and didn't dare to move. Aoji was so angry. He pointed at his subordinates and said, "Dig for me. I don't believe that the soil under the turtle shell can't be moved." The people of the Yen clan hated He Xinjiu to death. They immediately began to dig around the big turtle shell. He Xinjiu pursed her lips. These people were really naive. Did they think that the turtle shell was only half? This was not an ordinary turtle shell. It could also be sealed underneath. What a bunch of idiots. As expected, after digging for a long time, the people of the Yen clan realized that the bottom of the turtle shell was sealed. They were still unable to get Yun Chujiu out. Aoji gritted his teeth. Carry the turtle shell for me. I don't believe that we can't get this brat out. Therefore, the more than 20 people of the Yen clan carried the turtle shell. He Xinjia's heart sank. This was going to be difficult. There were tens of thousands of people of the Yen clan around her. She would definitely die if she went out. If she were to enter the Supreme Void Mirror, everyone would know that she had a divine weapon on her. Unless she had no other choice, she would have to wait and see. Aoji was even more anxious. Although he had used the Nightmare Race's forbidden spell, as time passed his power gradually declined. The hostage in his hands was almost the same as if he did not have one. The human race was gathering more and more. If this continued, the Nightmare Race would definitely lose. Right at this moment, the roar of a nightmare beast could be heard from afar. Aoji looked up and saw Mo Luan's father Mo Shifan, the #1 warrior of the Nightmare Race, sitting on top of a huge nightmare beast. Aoji's heart warmed up. His father must have been afraid that something might happen to him, so he had sent King Mo to receive him. The Nightmare Race was instantly overjoyed, but Alliance Master Yen and the others felt their hearts tighten. Not only was the Nightmare Race's army coming in large numbers, but there were also a large number of nightmare beasts. If they were to fight head-on, the consequences would be unimaginable. Alliance Master Yen gritted his teeth. Retreat. If she didn't go into hibernation now, wouldn't it kill her if she went into hibernation now? If she had gone into hibernation, she would have said so earlier. If she had known that the Grand Illusionary Mirror could not be used, she would have rushed out of the battlefield no matter what. There might have been a chance of survival. But now she had entered the freaking Nightmare Clan's lair. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to escape. Heavens! The pretty boy had even entered the mystic realm. Now she could only rely on herself. However, this fellow would always lose without losing. After hearing Aoji's words, she curled her lips and said, "What's the big deal? Isn't it just death? If you have the ability, then kill me. Frowning is not considered a hero." Aoji snorted coldly. "Men, put this turtle shell on the fire and roast it for me. Roast it for 49 days. I don't believe that it can't be roasted through." "Your Highness, don't." Although I'm not afraid of death, it's better to stay alive than to die. Can we negotiate and let me go? Hey Shinjo comforted herself. Anyway, she was a little girl, a hero or something. Get lost. Aoji had obviously underestimated Hei Xinjia's thick skin. He remained silent for a long while. A certain Jio's eyes darted around inside the bastard's shell. The best thing to do now was to stall. As long as she could stall Aoji first, she would definitely be able to find a chance to escape. No matter how bad it was, when the gigolo came out of the mystic realm, he could also come and save her. When the gigolo thought of debeaming, he could not help but shiver. Before the gigolo left, he had repeatedly warned her not to get involved in the matters of the Yen clan, but she had sneaked over. By then, the gigolo might not even be able to deal with her. Aoji finally came back to his senses and sneered. Yunchuju, I did not expect that you humans have such thick skin. Stop dreaming. You have repeatedly ruined the matters of our Yen clan. Do you want me to let you go? No way. Guards, put her on me and burn her. Aoji wanted to cut Yunchuju into 1,000 pieces. If it weren't for her, the Yen clan would have broken through the humans' defense line. If it weren't for her, he wouldn't have used the forbidden spell of the Yen clan to increase his spiritual power at the cost of burning his life force. As soon as Aoji gave the order, one of his men immediately hung up Yunchuji's body and lit a raging fire below. Hei Shinjo curled her lips. Idiot. Did he really think that he could burn her to death? She had the fire-repelling pearl. Not to mention the ordinary fire, even the 10,000-year-old fire marrow would not be able to burn her to death. The guy rolled his eyes. This was a good way to stall for time. Therefore the guy began to act. Oh my Aoji, you black-hearted man. How could you deal with your benefactor in such a vicious way? I sent you a letter in advance to tell you to run away, but you didn't. Are you blaming me? You roasted me to death. Aoji, let me tell you, I won't forgive you even if I turn into a grilled fish fillet. To think that the proud son of heaven of my generation, Yunchujo, would turn into a grilled fish fillet in the end. This is really unfair. The nightmare soldiers who were on guard around the bonfire looked at each other. This little human girl was about to be roasted to death, yet she could still curse so loudly? What a weirdo. As Hei Xinjia's voice was too loud, Aoji walked out from the tent. He snorted coldly. Yunchujo, if you don't want to be roasted by the fire, then come out of the turtle shell obediently. Maybe this crown prince will spare your life. Yunchujo thought to herself, Pui. What a liar. She would only go out if she had water in her head. If she went out, there would only be death. Aoji saw that Yunchuju did not say anything, and he shouted angrily out of embarrassment, Give me more firewood and continue to roast. Hence Hei Shinjo called out again. It was too hot. What was going to be dead in a while? Anyway, the entire Yen clan's base could hear this fellow's miserable screams. The Yen clan people hated this bad news bag to death. Those who did not have a duty to guard the base all ran over to watch the show. They even threw firewood onto the fire spontaneously. After a few days, the bushes next to the base of the Yen clan had been used to roast Yunchujo. It was a pity that Hei Shinjo still roared from time to time. Hey, those idiots who are burning the fire, don't waste the firewood. Put some meat of the demon beasts on the rack next to me. Remember to put some salt and honey on it. It's so fragrant, or bury some spiritual potatoes or something underneath. The taste is also very good. Panda novel. Koem, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you nightmare clansmen really don't have any interest in life. Moreover, your brains aren't enough. It's shameful to waste them. Why don't you hurry up and practice? The soldiers of the Yen clan had a confused look on their faces. Was this Yunchuju sick? She herself was about to be roasted into dried meat, yet she still had the leisure to command them to roast meat and roast spirit potatoes? However, what she said seemed to make some sense. It was also a waste to burn the firewood like this. Why not get some roasted meat or something, killing two birds with one stone? It just so happened that Aoji and the others had gone to another station to inspect. Thus, some of the nightmare race soldiers got some demonic beast meat and placed it on the fire to roast. As the fragrance wafted out, more nightmare race soldiers gathered around. Hey, how boring is it for you to just eat? Sing a few lines. You nightmare race people have been curled up in the far west all this time. Don't tell me you don't even know how to sing? Hei Shinjo made a tiny crack on the turtle shell, She narrowed her eyes and looked at the nightmare clansmen around her. At first no one paid attention to her. Later this fellow's words became more and more unpleasant. His main thought was nothing more than ridiculing the nightmare clansmen for being tone-deaf and singing out of tune. One of the nightmare clansmen couldn't take it anymore. He opened his mouth and started singing. Hei Shinjio touched her chin. He sang quite well. However, the lyrics cough cough this fellow didn't understand a single line. Therefore after the other person finished singing this guy clapped a few times. It sounded pretty good, but why can't I understand a single word of this lyrics? Did you just randomly sing it? Humph. What do you know? This is the ancient language of our nightmare race. Of course you don't understand, ignorant human. The nightmare race soldier finally found a chance to mock Yunchujio, so he naturally spared no effort. Hei Shinjio pursed her lips and opened her mouth to speak a string of English. Do you understand? The nightmare race soldier shook his head. Hei Shinjio spoke another string of French. Do you understand? The nightmare race soldier shook his head. Hei Shinjio spoke another string of Italian. Do you understand? The nightmare race soldier shook his head. Hissy. So who among us is ignorant? Besides, I'm a person who's about to die. Is it really alright for you to seek revenge for the smallest grievance? Our two armies are fighting for their own masters and we're just on different sides. Is there a need for you to hate me so much? I'm just a weak little girl and you're roasting me on top of me, yet you're still using words to attack me. Doesn't your conscience hurt? Seeing that I'm about to die, can we put away our hostility? A death that makes me happy? Hei Shinjio said with a sobbing voice. The nightmare race soldiers fell silent for a moment. There was only the crackling sound of firewood being roasted by the fire. Hei Shinjio continued, there is no personal grudge between us. We are just the victims of the competition between the two races for benefits. Isn't it good to live a quiet life? Isn't it good to cultivate properly? Your nightmare race and our human race have always been on the same path and never interfered with each other. Why do you have to fight endlessly? Sai, do you think that I am willing to go against your nightmare race? I'm still a flower bud. I haven't married and had children yet. I still have a lot of beautiful lives to enjoy. What about you? Many of you haven't married yet, right? Many of your family and friends have died in this battle, right? Why? Actually, we're all the same pitiful people. Why should pitiful people make things difficult for pitiful people? Many nightmare race soldiers revealed sorrowful expressions. No matter what war it was, the ones who suffered in the end were the soldiers at the bottom. Their family and friends had all become the victims of this war. Alright, don't be sad anymore. All of us here are pitiful people who share the same fate. Let's put aside our grudges for the time being and eat the roasted meat happily. While the nightmare race soldiers were still in a daze, they saw Hei Shinjio crack open the turtle shell and hook a piece of roasted meat. Let me tell all of you that your barbecue skills are really terrible. At least cut a few holes to let the meat taste good. Now it's so salty on the surface but there's no taste inside. Hei Shinjio ate as she complained. The nightmare race soldier. Did I let you eat it? Did I let you eat it? Did I let you eat it? Fuck, if you have the ability, don't eat it. Even beggars find it smelly. When the crowd saw the evil hook sticking out from the turtle shell again, they felt as if they had just woken up from a dream. They rushed up and scraped away the roasted meat. What a joke. This was roasted by them. If they didn't eat it now, that human bad news bag would steal it. After the crowd finished eating the roasted meat, Hei Shinjio reminded them considerately, remember to wipe your mouth after you finish eating. Don't let that black-hearted crown prince catch you. Everyone, their crown prince was not black-hearted. The black-hearted one was a bad bag. However, everyone still cleaned up the traces. After all, it was better to avoid trouble. When Aog returned from his inspection, he smelled the aroma of roasted meat in the camp. He was puzzled. Could it be that Yunchujio had been roasted? Did that Yunchujio scream today? Was she roasted to death? Aog asked a few soldiers on duty. The soldiers thought to themselves, not only did that troublemaker not die, she even stole their roasted meat to eat. Naturally, they did not dare to tell the truth. They only replied, reporting to your highness, Yunchujio is not dead. Just now she even screamed. Aog frowned. If she was not dead, how could she have the smell of roasted meat? It was probably the smell of the turtle shell being burnt. Since the turtle shell was already burning, Yun Chujio inside would probably not be able to hold on much longer. When that time came, she would definitely suffer a fate worse than death. That night, Aog received a secret letter from the King of Nightmares. He had no choice but to leave the base overnight and rush to the base of the Yen clan, the land of the Far West. Mo Shifan also followed Aog back to the land of the Far West. Before Aog left, he had specially instructed Mo Luan to keep an eye on Yun Chujio. Once she came out of the turtle shell, he would tie her up and wait for him to come back for interrogation. Mo Luan knew that Yun Chujio was scheming and had specially arranged for 100 Nightmare Race soldiers to guard the bonfire to prevent Yun Chujio from escaping. As Mo Luan often had to patrol the various garrisons, He Xinjiu often had the opportunity to organize barbecues. There was nothing that could not be solved by eating and drinking. If one meal did not work, then 2 meals would work. If 2 meals did not work, then 3 meals would work. The Nightmare Race soldiers did not have much spare time either. Their days were very boring, even though they knew that it was not very good to be mixed up with this bad news bag of the human race. However, when they thought about it, this bad news bag did not dare to come out of the turtle shell anyway. What kind of risk could there be? Thus, the crowd often took advantage of Mo Luan's absence to gather around the fire and barbecue. Occasionally, there would be people singing a few lines. However, very quickly the crowd was attracted by a certain Jiu's vivid story. Yes, it was the kind of story that would be a long serial. Therefore, the Nightmare Race soldiers wanted to listen to the next paragraph after listening to one paragraph. It was simply torturous to the point that they could not fall asleep. As for the story that a certain Jiu was telling, it just so happened that the main character in it was also being roasted with fire. Yes, Monkey Sun. I'm telling you, Monkey Sun has refined the fiery eyes in the Grand Supreme Lao Jun's pill refining furnace. If you roast me like this, I might be able to reap a blessing in disguise. Therefore you should move the firewood to the side. If I become stronger, won't you suffer? He Xinjiu said with a smile. The Nightmare soldiers were not stupid. They naturally knew that Yun Chujiu was trying to make them show mercy. Everyone hesitated for a moment, but they still moved the bonfire a little. They consoled themselves. After all, they had not burned this bad news bag to death after so many days. It should not be a big deal to move it a little. He Xinjiu used the story to get close to the Nightmare Race soldiers while thinking of ways to escape. Now that Aog wasn't in the base, it was the best time to escape. There was no need to think about forcefully breaking in. Although she was quite abnormal, it was hard for her to fight against 4 hands with 2 fists. There was no way to escape. She had thought about giving these Nightmare Race soldiers some medicine when they were roasting meat, but it was useless even if they were drugged. There were still many Nightmare Race soldiers outside and it was completely useless. This fellow thought about it for a long time, but there was only one way. That was to have Guai Chao summon the demon beast. Since she was hiding inside the bastard's shell, she was not afraid of being attacked by the demon beast. Moreover, these soldiers of the Nightmare Race would not allow the demon beasts to trample on their encampment. At that time she could take advantage of the chaos to leave. As long as she was allowed to leave the encampment of the Nightmare Race, she would have the confidence to shake off these people. Right, that was what she was going to do. That night, He Xinjiu made the Guai Chao emit a fragrance to seduce the demon beasts. He Xinjiu was afraid that the demon beasts that came would be of no use, so she made the Guai Chao summon them with all her might. What He Xinjiu did not expect was that the fragrance of the Guai Chao was not only useful to the demon beasts, but it also had a fatal attraction to the nightmare beasts. Before the demon beasts could be lured over, the Nightmare clan's base was in chaos. The nightmare beasts that were originally guarding the encampment were rampaging around the encampment like crazy. They had only one destination, and that was He Xinjiu, who was being roasted by the fire. The Yen clan's encampment was caught off guard by the sudden chaos. These nightmare beasts had been tamed for a long time and had always been very obedient. Why did they suddenly go crazy tonight? The Yen clan soldiers wanted to stop these rampaging nightmare beasts, but these nightmare beasts seemed to have gone crazy. As a result, the encampment of the Yen clan was in chaos. He Xinjiu looked out through the cracks in the shell and was delighted. I didn't expect the fragrance of Go Weiba tail to have an effect on the nightmare beasts. This was truly a heaven-sent opportunity. If she didn't run now, when would she do it? The soldiers guarding the bonfire were all taming the nightmare beasts, so they didn't notice the suspended shell. Hei Shinjio took out a set of Nightmare Race soldiers' clothes from her storage ring. As for the source of the clothes, when they had ambushed the Nightmare Race's encampment previously, this fellow had handed over the Nightmare Race soldiers' corpses to Yuan 11, but the storage ring had been confiscated by this guy. After Hei Shinjio changed her clothes, she adjusted the level of her spiritual power to the first layer of the spiritual void tier, and swallowed another disguise pill. Then she had Go Weiba stop releasing the fragrance, and sprinkled a box of incense powder on her body to cover the fragrance of the Guai Chao. Only then did she let the little bastard put away the big turtle shell, then jumped onto the ground and blended into the crowd. This bastard shouted hoarsely in the crowd, "Oh my god! This is bad. Something big has happened. The turtle shell is gone. Yun Chujio has escaped." The nightmare soldiers turned around and saw that the bonfire was empty. The big turtle shell had actually disappeared into thin air, causing even more chaos. Although the Guai Chao had stopped releasing the fragrance, the nightmare beast had not regained their senses for a moment and were still ramming around mindlessly. Hei Shinjio blended into the crowd, her fragrance choking the surrounding nightmare race soldiers and causing them to sneeze non-stop. This fellow was quickly despised and the nightmare race soldiers kept their distance from her. Yun Chujio thought to herself, how would she know what her name was? She had never studied those lousy names of the Yen clan. What if they were exposed? This fellow rolled his eyes and said in a fawning manner, "Princess, it's fine if I don't use my original name. Princess, please bestow a name on this subordinate." The princess was obviously very satisfied with Yun Chujio's explanation. She curled her lips and said, "You are quite smart. I heard that Brother Crown Prince hates an ugly human named Ling Xiaojio very much. From now on you will be called Kill Xiaojio." The freshly made Kill Xiaojio. "Thank you for the name, princess. This name is really great. Princess, you are really a talented girl who is both civil and martial." Yun Chujio said this, but in her heart she had killed this bullshit princess more than 10,000 times. Fuck, she killed little Jio. From now on, this great aunt will change her name to Kill the Nightmare Clan. Kill the Nightmare Clan. Kill the Nightmare Clan. Fuck. The princess pouted. What happened? Did Ling Xiaoju run away? The nightmare beast suddenly went into a riot. She might have escaped during the chaos. Yun Chujio lowered her head and said respectfully, "Without the crown prince, these people can't do anything. They can't even take care of an ugly human. What a waste." The princess said disdainfully. Yun Chujio naturally couldn't say anything. She lowered her head and pretended to be obedient. "I heard that Ling Xiaojia's real name is Yun Chujio. I heard that she is the #1 enemy of the Divine Devil Hall. Is that right?" The princess asked. "I heard that's the case. The people of the human race said that Ling Xiaojio is Yun Chujio." Yun Chujio felt awkward in her heart. No matter who had the name of killing her and said her name, it would be awkward, okay? Humph. The Divine Devil Temple boasts that they are powerful, but they can't even take care of an ugly human. I think they are just bragging." The princess said disdainfully. Yun Chujio's heart moved. The nightmare race was a fence-sitter, so they were on the side of the demons. Could it be that they were really related to the Divine Devil Temple when they came out to stir up trouble this time? At this time, the nightmare beast had already returned to normal. In addition, AOG had returned and order had been restored in the base. However, AOG was furious and said that he would find Yun Chujio even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground. "Brother Crown Prince, calm down first. That Ling Xiaojio won't be able to run far. I'm sure you can catch her. Besides, if you can catch her once, you can catch her a second time. You'll catch her sooner or later. Pian, you've had a tough journey. Go and settle down first. You've seen the Nightmare Clan base. If there's nothing else, you can go back tomorrow." AOG said coldly, then he turned around and led his men to search for Yun Chujio. The princess stomped her feet unwillingly and glared at Yun Chujio, who was pretending to be obedient. "It's all your fault. If it wasn't for the strong scent of incense on your body, why would Brother Crown Prince be in such a hurry to leave? Hurry up and get rid of the scent on your body." "Yun Chujio, you fucking can't seduce a man and you're blaming me? Pooey. Shameless." Yun Chujio felt stifled. Up until now, she only knew that this little bitch was a princess. She seemed to be called something Pian and she was in love with AOG. She did not know anything else. It would be fine for a short period of time, but after a long time she would definitely be exposed. Moreover, she would not release her nightmare aura. Sooner or later she would be exposed. Forget it, it was better to pass this round first. It seemed that this Princess Pian Pian would not stay here for long. When she left, she would think of a way to follow her, and then she would think of a way to escape on the way. Princess Pian Pian's tent was built very quickly. Yun Chujio helped her wash up again. Only then did Princess Pian Pian rest. As for the freshly made Xiaojiao, since she was a personal maid, she had to stay in the tent to watch the night. This guy wanted to take advantage of Princess Pian Pian's deep sleep to kidnap her, but when he saw the guards outside the tent, he gave up. She was alone now and could not be rash. He had to hit her with one strike or she would really die. Early the next morning, Yun Chujio served Princess Pian Pian again. Princess Pian Pian glanced at her. There are very few people in our nightmare clan who look as ugly as you. You can't be that Yun Chujio, right? Yun Chujio's heart tightened. She clenched her hands tightly under her sleeves. Just as she was about to attack, she heard Princess Pian Pian twitch her lips and say, "All right, I'm just saying. If you were Yun Chujio, it would be a miracle. However, your appearance is really quite ugly. It just so happens that you can compliment my beauty." Yun Chujio heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. Damn it, she had thought that this little bitch had recognized her, but it turned out that she was just spouting nonsense. No wonder she insisted on letting her be her maid. It turned out that her appearance after the disguise was ordinary. What a dog. Let's go. You accompany me to the Crown Prince's brother's place. I want to have breakfast with him. Although Yun Chujio was unwilling to go, she could only follow behind Princess Pian Pian. This fellow had already thought it through. If Aog recognized her, she would kidnap Princess Pian Pian and drag her down with her even before she died. However, Yun Chujio was obviously overthinking. Aog did not even look at her. However, it was also true. Even in his dreams, Aog did not expect Yun Chujio to be so bold as to flash in front of him. Princess Pian Pian had set up an exquisite breakfast, fawning over Aog like a lapdog. Of course, the last sentence was Hei Xinjia's inner line. She now had a lot of resentment towards Princess Pian Pian. If it were not for her, Hei Xinjia would have long run away. However, this fellow's thoughts quickly shifted to the breakfast on the table. Oh my, I did not expect the Yen clan to be so detestable. Their food looked quite delicious. It could be said that it had all the looks, fragrance and taste. This fellow had been planning to escape last night, so she didn't eat much. Now that she smelled the fragrance of the food, she suddenly felt extremely hungry. Unfortunately, she was only a servant now. She could only go to eat after her master finished eating. No matter how hungry she was, she had to endure it. Gulp, gulp. Aog frowned. What was that sound? Yun Chujio wished she could find a hole to hide in. What did it mean when she couldn't even swallow a mouthful of cold water? She was the one. Why was her broken stomach screaming? It really killed her. Princess Pian Pian giggled. Brother Crown Prince, so it was my maid who made the noise. It's rude to be unpresentable. I'll kill her now so as not to affect your appetite. Yun Chujio, was this bullshit princess the long-lost sister of a gigolo? Why did she kill people at the slightest disagreement? Is she crazy? Aog raised his head and glanced at Yun Chujio in the corner, frowning. I remember you didn't bring a maid here. Who is she? Isn't she the soldier who sprinkled the powder yesterday? I had no one to use, so I made her my maid. I even changed her a good name to kill little Jiao. Princess Pian Pian said. She covered her mouth and laughed again. Hei Xinjiao heard this laughter like an old hen's cry. It was over, it was over. If Aog asked her her original name and checked the roster, she would be finished. Hei Xinjiao estimated the distance between her and Princess Pian Pian. It was too far, there was no way to succeed. If it really didn't work, she would have to force her way out. Unexpectedly, Aog was probably just asking casually. He glanced at her and then looked away. He said to Princess Pian Pian, Pian Pian, you're messing around again. I'm busy with military affairs here. You can go back today. I'm not going back. I'm going to accompany you to attack the human race here. I believe that Brother Crown Prince will soon break through the human race's defense line. P. and a novel. Koem Aog's expression darkened. I've already given my aunt some face by letting you go to the front line. If you continue to cause trouble, I'll tie you up and send you back to the Onkong Manor. Princess Pian Pian stomped her feet. I don't care. Unless you agree to marry me, I'll just stay here and not leave. This meant that a woman was chasing a man. This Princess Pian Pian was really infatuated. She actually chased him to the front line. It had to be said that this fellow was really big-hearted. At this time he still had the heart to gossip about others. Aoji's expression was very ugly, but he seemed to be unable to do anything to this Princess Pian Pian. He was silent for a moment, then he said, "Go back obediently. Give me a month to think about it. I will give you an answer when the time comes." Princess Pian Pian's face lit up. She knew that Aoji would most likely agree to it if he said so. She immediately beamed with joy. "All right, I will listen to you, brother Crown Prince. I will go back after having breakfast with you." He Xingjia's heart was instantly filled with joy. This was great. As long as she left with Princess Pian Pian, she would definitely have a way to escape midway. This was truly wonderful. Just as this fellow was feeling extremely happy, he heard Aoji say, "Coincidentally, there's a portion of the soldiers that need to be changed. We'll get Mo Wan to lead them to protect you." Yun Chujio consoled herself. Having more people wasn't a big deal, and Mo Wan following wasn't a big deal either. She could still find a way to return. Yes, definitely. This fellow's good mood came to an abrupt end when they set off. Princess Pian Pian said with a look of disdain, "You're so clumsy in doing things. Just stay here and be a soldier." Yun Chujio, Princess, just take me in. Although I'm ugly and clumsy, my name was given to me by you. When you and the Crown Prince are married, will you be able to talk more about me when you think of my name? Pan Dian 0VL CM Princess Pian Pian was obviously pleased by Yun Chujio's words about her and Aoji getting married. The smile on her face was almost overflowing. "All right, since you still know how to speak, come with me." "Thank you, Princess." He Xingjiu heaved a sigh of relief. As long as she left the Nightmare Races camp, she would definitely think of a way to leave. This fellow followed behind Princess Pian Pian and left the Nightmare Races camp. However, when he saw the tens of thousands of Nightmare Race troops in front of him, his heart broke down. Why were there so many people? Was there a need for such a huge change in defense? Could she go back on her words? As the main target of protection, Princess Pian Pian was naturally protected in the middle of the Nightmare Race's army. Yun Chujio, this personal maid, could only bitterly follow by her side. As time passed, this fellow had basically given up on escaping. She had no way of leaving Mo Wan's line of sight. Mo Wan was like a good hunting dog, staring at her at all times. To be exact, he was staring at Princess Pian Pian. Yun Chujio quickly figured out what was going on. Mo Wan actually had a crush on Princess Pian Pian? Princess Pian was madly in love with Aoji again? Oh my, what a drama. Yun Chujio tried all means to escape from Mo Wan's sight, but she was mercilessly killed by Mo Wan. Mo Wan had only one reason. The princess only had her maid now. If she left, who would take care of the princess? Yun Chujio was furious. No matter how much she thought about it, she did not expect Mo Wan to be Princess Pian Pian's admirer. Moreover, he was the type of admirer who was a brainless fan. He Xingjiu secretly thought that Aoji would not intentionally let Mo Wan send this Princess Pian Pian, right? Was it to let them develop a relationship? The 10,000 feet tall Gobi was less than 2 days away from the Yen clan's nest. He Xingjiu's escape plan had completely failed. This fellow had a big heart. She thought to herself that she wouldn't be able to escape anyway. Since she had come, she should just take it as it was. Damn it, they had forced her to do this. If she didn't turn the Yen clan's lair upside down, she wouldn't be called to kill little Jiao. Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio had originally thought that the Yen clan's lair was also a desert or a Gobi desert. She had never thought that the Yen clan's territory wasn't any different from the other places in the Immortal Origin continent. Moreover, the territory was vast and it wasn't just a corner of the continent. Yun Chujio curled her lips in her heart. The Yen clan was really insatiable. What was wrong with this place? Why did they have to start a war with the humans? This fellow was afraid of being exposed, so he didn't talk much along the way. Moreover, he wasn't as fawning over Princess Pian Pian as before. The reason why this fellow was like this was because he felt that if she was too pleasing to Princess Pian Pian's heart, she might be placed in an important position. When that time came, a tall tree would attract the wind. Once someone exposed that she wasn't from the Yen clan, it would be terrible. After walking for another 2 days, they finally arrived at the capital city of the Yen clan. The city walls were tall and sturdy, and the city gates exuded an ancient and majestic aura. It seemed like they had quite a foundation. Mo Wan sent Princess Pian Pian to the Prince Onkong's residence before he left. Before Princess Pian Pian entered the residence, a large group of maidservants and old women came out to welcome her. Some of them even revealed jealous expressions when they saw Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio, Pa en Dan 0 Vel. C0M, are you kidding me? Was a mere servant worthy of these people's jealousy? Princess Pian Pian was clearly enjoying the scene of the stars surrounding her. She glanced at Yun Chujio, who was standing obediently behind her. She said to a servant girl, "Sai, this killing little Jio is a servant girl that I took in at the front line. She's clumsy, so she can be considered a third-class servant girl." Hearing Princess Pian Pian's words, some of the old servant girls looked at Yun Chujio with even more hostility. Yun Chujio's heart was like a beeping dog. How could a third-class servant girl attract jealousy? Could it be that these people only had a little pursuit in life? Princess Pian Pian still had to pay her respects to Prince Onkong and Princess Onkong, so Yun Chujio naturally couldn't follow her. Sai arranged for her to be with a servant girl called Qing Ling. Yun Chujio ridiculed in her heart. Ting Ling? Wasn't that clear? Zero. This name was really lacking in skill. The few people in the spirit beast pouch silently ridiculed. Only a useless person like you had the nerve to make fun of others? Pui. What's your name again? You killed little Jio, right? You've really reached the heavens in a single step. Who in our nightmare race doesn't know that Princess Pian Pian is going to marry the crown prince in the future? That would be the future empress. As long as our princess marries the crown prince, even if we are third-class handmaidens, we can still be married to some officials or generals in the future. Even some officials and young ladies might not be able to marry as well as us. Qing Ling said rather proudly. Yun Chujio silently ridiculed in her heart. Didn't this answer the phrase "one person achieves the Tao, chickens and dogs ascend to heaven"? Yun Chujio cooperated and revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. She fawningly said, "Sister Qing Ling, my family is poor and I don't have much knowledge, so I followed you to become a soldier. I hope you can give me more advice in the future. This is just a small token of my appreciation. Don't think it's too little." Hei Xinjiu took out a few pieces of the captured nightmare stones and handed them to Qing Ling. Seeing that Yun Chujio was so tactful, Qing Ling's smile became more sincere. "Little sister Jio, our third-grade maids usually do cleaning and the like. As long as we are honest, there won't be any problems. But there's one thing you must remember, that if the princess chooses someone to follow her to the nightmare ancestors' land, you must never follow her." Yun Chujio did not know anything about the land of the Nightmare Lord, but she could not ask directly, so she could only nod her head. Qing Ling continued, "Don't think that following the princess to the land of the Nightmare Lord is a good thing. Let me remind you, don't be foolish. The Crown Prince is the object of love for all the girls of our Nightmare clan, and some of our princess love rivals often go to the land of the Nightmare Lord. Think about it. Our princess has such a fiery temper. She often conflicts with those people. In the end, the unlucky ones always follow the princess handmaidens. However, generally speaking, the princess usually brings first and second-class handmaidens. It shouldn't be our turn. Don't worry." Yun Chujio nodded. So that was the case. Fortunately, she was smart and did not deliberately curry favor with Princess Pian Pian on the way. Otherwise, she might have been made a first-class handmaiden. She was really prescient. This guy was soon slapped in the face. Early in the morning the next day, Ziyi came to look for her. "Little sister Jio, according to reason, you just arrived and should not have accompanied the princess to the land of the Nightmare Lord. However, the princess likes you very much and specifically asked you to go, so follow me." Although Ziyi's expression was well hidden, she still revealed a hint of schadenfreude. Yun Chujio felt that she had been extremely unlucky recently. What she was afraid of came true. She had always felt guilty, but now she actually wanted to follow Princess Pian Pian to the land of the Nightmare Lord. It was simply killing her. However, she couldn't not go. That Princess Pian Pian was arrogant and unruly. Once she wasn't happy, she might even want to kill her. Therefore, the unlucky Jiao could only follow Princess Pian Pian out of the Ankang royal residence and head straight for the land of the Nightmare Lord. The land of the demon ancestor was close to the capital city. However, Princess Pian Pian did not go there on foot due to her status. Instead, she sat on an exquisite carriage pulled by a demon beast. The unlucky 9 was not bad. She also enjoyed herself. Yes, she sat on the edge of the carriage. This fellow's eyeballs were rolling around. When she entered the city, she did not have the chance to take a good look at it. Now she saw that the capital city of the demon clan was very prosperous. People came and went on the streets and alleys. However, the spiritual powers of the people coming and going were not very high, which was understandable. After all, those with high spiritual powers had gone to the front lines to fight. Hei Xinjiu narrowed her eyes. Her current identity had basically been washed clean, but she could not release the nightmare chi. She did not know whether the nightmare chi of the Nightmare clan was cultivated or born with it, so she could only deal with it as it came. Alright, there was also the problem of the disguise pill. A disguise pill only had the effect of 10 days and she only had one left in her hands. It would be great if she could find the medicinal ingredients to refine the disguise pill. The carriage soon arrived at the so-called Nightmare Ancestors' land. It was a place that was enclosed by a tall wall. It was impossible to see what was going on inside from outside. Hei Xinjiu was mumbling in her heart. What exactly was the Nightmare Ancestors' land? However, Hei Xinjiu's attention was attracted by the plaque of the Nightmare Ancestors' land. She discovered that the materials used for the plaque of the Nightmare Ancestors' land were the same as the material of the huge coffin that she found in the Chaos Origin sect. It was made from the wood of the ancient strange tree citron. Even though this tablet was very old, one could still faintly smell the unique fragrance of citron. Why are you standing there for killing little Jiao? Why aren't you following me in? Princess Pian Pian said with extreme displeasure. Yun Chujiu came back to her senses and hurriedly took 2 steps to chase after Princess Pian Pian. Wait a minute. It's a routine inspection. The 2 guards said in a businesslike manner. Yun Chujiu's heart skipped a beat. Routine inspection? What inspection? Princess Pian Pian, please spare us. Jia Pian Pian, can you have some brains? Not to mention the Empress, even His Majesty King Yen would not easily offend the 4 great aristocratic families, much less marry us to a commoner. That's right, do you really think you can marry the Crown Prince? Your Ankang imperial residence is just an empty shell. What benefits does the Crown Prince have by marrying you? He will definitely choose one of us. Princess Pian Pian's face flushed red. It was obvious that these people's words had hit her sore spot. The reason why the Crown Prince did not agree to marry her was because of these bitches. The power of the 4 great aristocratic families was deeply rooted. Even King Yen had to be restrained by them. Otherwise, the Crown Prince would not be in a hurry to start a war with the human race. Princess Pian Pian's gaze fell on Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu immediately had a bad premonition. Do you know who she is? Brother Crown Prince saw that I didn't bring a maid, so he gave her to me. Did Brother Crown Prince give her to your maid? He probably didn't even give her anything, right? I was childhood friends with Brother Crown Prince and you want to compete with me? Princess Pian Pian took back a city and suddenly felt that bringing this little Jew back was the right decision. When the girls heard Princess Pian Pian's words, their gazes immediately fell on the unlucky 9th who was trying her best to reduce her presence. She's just a trash at the first layer of the spiritual void tier. I reckon that His Highness the Crown Prince thinks that she's too trash, that's why he gave her to you. That's right. There are so many handmaidens like this, what's there to show off about? Besides, she's too ugly. If I had such a handmaiden, I would feel that it's beneath my dignity. You still treat it like a treasure, you're really ignorant. Pandi N0 Vel. Yun Chujiu was furious. You guys are the fucking trash. Fortunately, when she was escaping, she deliberately adjusted the level of her spiritual power from the 6th level to the 1st level of the spiritual void tier. If she was at the 6th level of the spiritual void tier, wouldn't she be laughed at by these people? Princess Pian Pian was obviously the kind of person who had a temper but no brain. After being smacked a few times by the 4 girls, she was suddenly so angry that she didn't know what to say. The four girls had the upper hand and mocked them a few more times. Then they left while chatting and laughing. Looking at their backs, Princess Pian Pian was so angry that she stomped her feet. Then she vented her anger on hapless Jiao. What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and leave, you piece of trash. Yun Chujio, this fellow narrowed his eyes. It was not too late for little Jiao to take revenge. Little bitch, just you wait. After walking for about 15 minutes, Yun Chujio found that there was a vast fog in front of her. He could not see anything. Just as she was puzzled, she saw Princess Pian take out a jade token. After forming a seal with both hands, an ancient and heavy door appeared in the fog. Princess Pian Pian pushed the door open and walked in. He Xinjiu naturally followed her in. After entering, her line of sight suddenly widened. This was indeed a sacrificial temple. He Xinjiu was even more confused. Normally, only fixed days would come for the sacrificial ceremony. Why would these people come here every few days? This fellow felt that it was not bad to look at the Yen clan's primogenitor. She did not know what the Yen clan's primogenitor looked like. However, when she saw the Yen clan's primogenitor, she felt rather disappointed. He was just a handsome man. Moreover, Yun Chujio felt that the man's gaze looked treacherous and sinister. She felt inexplicably displeased. Of course, even if this fellow was displeased, he still followed the crowd and paid his respects. Yun Chujio originally thought that she could leave after paying her respects. She did not expect that after Princess Pian Pian and the women from the four great clans left the sacrificial hall, they would go around to the back. He Xinjiu was shocked. There was actually a sacrificial hall behind them, and it was much more exquisite and luxurious than the previous one. This fellow was secretly thinking, could it be that the Yen clan had two ancestors? What surprised her even more was that the women from the four great clans and Princess Pian Pian did not enter the sacrificial hall. Instead, they directly knelt on the green stone slab at the entrance. He Xinjiu could only kneel to the side as well. Her curiosity was overflowing. Were these people sick? Why didn't they enter? Just as He Xinjiu was feeling puzzled, she saw Princess Pian Pian and the women from the four great families, as well as the maids they brought, began to recite the blessings devoutly. He Xinjiu, fuck, I don't understand a single word. The words these people were saying were the same as the songs sung by the nightmare race soldier. They were all using the ancient language of the nightmare race, so He Xinjiu naturally didn't understand a single word. He Xinjiu was afraid that she would be exposed, so she hurriedly followed suit and recited. Of course, this fellow only opened his mouth and didn't make a sound. Finally, everyone finished reciting and respectfully exited the sacrificial temple from a nearby passageway to the back. He Xinjiu felt that she had really broadened her horizons. She had not expected that there would be a waterfall behind this sacrificial temple. What surprised her even more was that Princess Pian Pian and the women from the four great clans had actually taken off their outer clothes and jumped into the pool below the waterfall while wearing only their inner clothes. He Xinjia's face did not show it, but she was completely dumbfounded in her heart. What was going on in the minds of these people from the nightmare race? These people ran to the so-called nightmare ancestors' land just to take a bath? Just as He Xinjiu was stunned, she noticed that the four maidservants from the four great clans also took off their outer clothes and went into the waterfall. However, in order not to offend their master, they could only carefully bathe at the edge of the pool. He Xinjiu looked left and right. She was the only one left on the shore. In order not to expose herself, she had no choice but to go into the pool as well. However, this fellow did not take off his outer clothes, so who knew if it was safe inside? It was better for her to be careful. Apparently, no one cared too much about her and focused on bathing. He Xinjiu was even more confused. Wasn't it just a bath? Why did these people look so pious? After a while, everyone finished bathing and went ashore. He Xinjiu helped Princess Pian Pian change into a coat before drying her wet clothes with spiritual power. Then she randomly put on a coat outside. Princess Pian Pian glared at her, but she didn't say anything. Yun Chujio then realized that ever since they entered the sacrificial temple, these people hadn't said a single word apart from reciting the Zhuwen. After they walked around the waterfall, they started to speak softly. Through their conversation, Yun Chujio had a preliminary understanding of the Yen clan's four great families, namely the Ji family, the Mu family, the Lien family, and the Yin family. The four women were all the direct daughters of the clan. Jilian Mu Yen Lian Yi and Yin Shuang Shuang. After walking for a while, the volume of their voices began to increase. Princess Pian Pian, last time the five of us, you absorbed the least amount of nightmare energy. You lost to me for 10,000 nightmare stones. How about we increase the stakes this time? Jilian said provocatively. Humph. You can decide how much you want. Why would I, Princess Pian Pian, be afraid of you? Princess Pian Pian said disdainfully. Okay, then let's change the stakes to 20,000 nightmare stones and a maid. What do you think? Jilian deliberately glanced at Yun Chujio when she said this. Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. What was the meaning of adding a maid? If Princess Pian Pian lost, she would belong to the winner, or would she have to be killed? Princess Pian Pian didn't agree immediately, and her expression was somewhat hesitant. Jilian said provocatively, What? You wouldn't be afraid to accept the challenge, right? It's just a little handmaiden. Could it be that you can't bear to part with her? That's true. I reckon that this handmaiden is someone you shamelessly begged from the crown prince. Naturally, you can't bear to part with her. Princess Pian Pian gritted her teeth. Humph. Let's gamble then. I'll agree to it. However, what if one of you is ranked last? Jilian said nonchalantly, If we lose, I will be the same. If we lose to the first place, we'll lose 20,000 nightmare stones and a servant girl. The nightmare stones will be yours, and the servant girl will be sacrificed to the sacred beast of the nightmare race. Yun Chujie's heart was like a beeping dog. No wonder Qingling had instructed her not to follow Princess Pian Pian to the land of the nightmare race. So it turned out that these little bastards would always sacrifice living humans to the so-called bullshit sacred beast? This fellow consoled himself. The probability of Princess Pian Pian losing was 1 in 5. She might not be so unlucky and lose. Also, what did they mean by absorbing nightmare chi? Yun Chujio stole a glance at the other four maids. She did not see any worry or fear on their faces. Instead, she was somewhat gloating. Needless to say, the target of their gloating was Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio's heart tightened. Looking at how fearless they were, there was a high chance that Princess Pian Pian would lose. What should she do then? Before Yun Chujio could think of a good idea, everyone arrived in front of a round platform. In the middle of the round platform was a statue of a demonic beast. It looked extremely ferocious and had 4 vertical pupils that looked like snakes. There were a few grooves around the round platform. Princess Pian Pian and the rest put their jade tokens into the grooves and knelt down to recite the blessing. The content was exactly the same as the chanting in the sacrificial hall. He Xinjiu still could not understand a single word. He Xinjia's focus was now on the monster. Oh my, wasn't that ugly thing the nightmare beast that was locked up in the forbidden grounds of Tianyuan Academy? Meng Yanshou? Back then she had tricked this thing into swearing her loyalty to her. She had even given it the name Curly Hair and promised it that she would save it after finding the Heaven Punisher axe or the 10,000-year fire marrow. Was it actually the so-called sacred beast of the Yen clan? Then the question arose. Since Curly Hair was locked up in Tianyuan Academy, how were they going to sacrifice the so-called sacred beast? Could it be that there were other Meng Yanshou in this world? Didn't Curly Hair say that it was the only one? Yun Chujio looked at Princess Pian Pian and the others. As they chanted, the statue of Meng Yanshou emitted a black nightmare aura from its mouth. Then it was divided into 5 portions and poured into Princess Pian 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 and the others' jade tokens. Yun Chujio judged with her naked eyes that Princess Pian Pian's portion was the least. This fellow's heart skipped a beat. She was afraid that she was going to be unlucky. Should she run or what should she do? There were many guards outside the Nightmare Ancestors' land. Wouldn't be easy to escape. Otherwise, should she kidnap Princess Pian Pian? Wouldn't work either. Even if they could leave the Nightmare Ancestors' land, they wouldn't be able to escape the territory of the Nightmare clan. It was better to first see what was going on with their so-called sacrificial offering and then act according to the situation. After a while, the Nightmare Beast statue no longer emitted any nightmare chi from its mouth. Only then did Princess Pian Pian and the others stop chanting. Jilian glanced at the round platform and then said proudly, "Mine is 400 nightmare chi points. How much is yours?" Yun Chujio stretched her neck and looked. Only then did she realize that there were 9 circles on the sides of the grooves where the jade tokens were placed. Jilian's one lit up with 4 circles. This fellow took another look. The other 3 people had lit up 3 dots, and only 2 dots lit up on the corresponding grooves of Princess Pian Pian. This fellow had long been mentally prepared for this, so he wasn't too surprised. Princess Pian Pian's expression was very ugly. This is 20,000 nightmare stones. Men, lock this Leng Xiaojiu into the Holy Beast Hall and consecrate the Holy Beast. Yun Chujia's heart moved. So it was just a lock? This guy felt that rather than fighting with these nightmare clansmen, he might as well go and see the so-called Holy Beast. Perhaps it was Curly Hair's little cub. It was much easier to trick the nightmare clansmen than to trick the beasts. Therefore this guy did not resist at all. He was escorted to the second sacrificial temple by 2 guards from the nightmare ancestors' land. This guy wanted to get some information, but the 2 guards' expressions were solemn. They did not pay any attention to her and even threatened her. If they spoke again, she would be knocked out. This guy had no choice but to stop. When they arrived at the entrance of the second sacrificial hall, the 2 guards continued to recite the Incubusion language. They then opened the door of the divine hall and pushed He Xinjiu in. As soon as He Xinjiu entered, the door of the hall was closed. This guy looked around and found that the interior was very luxurious, but the most eye-catching one was the statue of Meng Yanshou in front of him. This statue was much bigger than the one on the round platform, and it was even more vivid. While Yun Chujiu was looking around, the statue spoke in human language. It's another little kid with heavenly thunder spirit root. Last time I was kidnapped by a brat and now I can take it out on you. Yun Chujiu burst into laughter. Hey Curly Hair, you're good. Weren't you locked up in the Tianyuan continent? Why are you here pretending to be a ghost again? After Yun Chujiu said this, the entire divine hall suddenly became quiet. There was no sound at all. Yun Chujiu sneered, Curly Hair, do you think that you'll be fine as long as you don't make a sound? You swore an oath in your heart. You have to listen to me for the rest of your life. I'm ordering you now, get out. As soon as Yun Chujiu finished speaking, a black mist drifted out from the statue and transformed into the appearance of Meng Yanshou. However, the originally fierce expression was filled with flattery. Little fairy, so it's you. How did you change your appearance? I was blind and couldn't recognize you. Why did you come here? Meng Yanshou felt as if he had seen a ghost. Fuck, wasn't this Jinx in the Tianyuan continent? Why did it come to the Yen clan? You still have the cheek to ask me? Tell me what's going on. How did you become the holy beast of the Yen clan? Yun Chujiu took out a chair from her storage ring and sat on it with her legs crossed as she asked. Meng Yanshou was like a lapdog as it knelt in front of He Xinjiu. It sighed and said, Little fairy, you promised to let me out, but I waited for you on the left and you didn't come on the right, so I could only come to the Yen clan to play. Speak in human language. Yun Chujiu didn't believe his nonsense. The so-called land of the Yen clan had existed for many years. It was possible that it had existed for tens of thousands of years. How could Curly Hair have just arrived? Meng Yanshou. He really wanted to shout at this black-hearted brat. Damn it, I'm a Meng Yanshou. He couldn't speak human language when he was a human. However, it did not dare to. Just as Meng Yanshou was about to make up a story, He Xinjiu said coldly, You'd better tell me the truth, or your body will never be able to regain its freedom. Meng Yanshou's 4 vertical pupils immediately lit up. Little fairy, have you found the key to the Heaven Punisher axe or the iron chain? Or have you found the 10,000-year-old fire marrow? Yun Chujiu snorted coldly. Don't even think about the key. I've asked Dean Huangfu of the Tianyuan Institute in a roundabout way. He doesn't even know what's inside the Forbidden Land, let alone the key to the chains. Meng Yanshou immediately became dispirited. It knew that it wouldn't be so easy to regain its freedom. However, the Heaven Punisher Divine Axe and the 10,000-year-old Fire Marrow are in my hands. Meng Yanshou suddenly stood up. Little fairy, is what you said true? I knew that you are not an ordinary person. If you were an ordinary person, you would have been killed by Tian Dao. Little fairy, then don't waste time. Hurry back to the Tianyuan continent and release my main body so that I can follow you and kill everyone. Yun Chujiu glanced at it. Why are you in such a hurry? I haven't finished speaking. Although the Heaven Punisher axe and the 10,000-year-old Fire Marrow are in my hands, I still have no way to release you. Meng Yanshou thought that Yun Chuju was taking advantage of him and said pitifully, "Little fairy, I'm your beast now. You can't just ignore me. You have to be responsible for me." Yun Chuju, why did it feel like she was giving herself to him? It's not that I don't care about you, but the Xingtian godly axe has somehow turned into a huge kitchen knife. Although it's pretty awesome, it's still very difficult to cut the 10,000-year-old black iron. Moreover, you're trapped by 6 10,000-year-old profound iron chains, so I'm afraid that you won't be able to cut through them for the time being. As for Little Flame, he's just a little brat who doesn't have any intelligence yet, so he won't be able to cut through the 10,000-year-old profound iron chains. In order to prove what she said, Yun Chuju took out the large kitchen knife. If you don't believe me, take a look for yourself. Not only is this large kitchen knife chipped, but there's also a crack on it. I'm afraid that it'll be finished before the 10,000-year-old profound iron chains are cut off. The moment the nightmare beast saw the large kitchen knife, its heart turned cold. Meng Yanshou thought to himself. This was obviously a broken kitchen knife. Could the little girl be lying to it again? Yun Chuju saw through the nightmare beast's intentions at a glance. She raised her hand and summoned the small flame. The small flame lazily circled around the nightmare beast. Meng Yanshou trembled for a moment. This degree of heat. It was indeed not something that could be emitted by ordinary flames. Curly hair, did you see that? I have always taken your matter to heart. Don't worry. It won't be long before the big kitchen knife will regain its divine weapon's elegance. The little flame can also turn into a big flame. At that time I will go and save you. Hey, Shinjio said with a smile. Meng Yanshou really wanted to spit at her and treat her as a fool. Putting aside whether that broken kitchen knife was the Heaven Punisher's divine axe, just this small flame alone would take a long time to turn into a big flame. And a novel. However, Meng Yanshou only thought about it. It had already sworn on its heart demon oath, and it had no way to do anything to the black heart in front of it. Could only comfort itself. Compared to the hopeless days before. Now it finally had some hope. Curly hair, now it's time for you to tell me the truth, right? Isn't your main body in the Tianyuan continent? Why did your spiritual sense come to the Yen clan to play tricks? Yun Chuju took out a spirit fruit and asked as she chewed on it. Meng Yanshou swallowed its saliva. It sighed. Little fairy, when I was captured I split my spiritual sense into two. Half of it was locked in the Tianyuan continent with my main body, and the other half was trapped here by the Yen clan. Woo-woo, I can't believe I, an ancient beast, ended up in this state. It's so painful that I wish I could die. Shut up. You said you were trapped by a nightmare beast? Is it the man from the temple in front? Yun Chuju briefly described the man's appearance. Yes, it's him. It's that bastard. Back then I was in a hurry to escape and was trapped here by his schemes. I could only provide them with free nightmare chi. I'm miserable, woo-woo. Yun Chuju was speechless. Could it be that Meng Yanshou had been locked up for a long time and had become a crybaby? Enough. Stop crying. Tell me, how can I let you go? Yun Chuju was so smart that she had long seen through Meng Yanshou's intentions. Meng Yanshou revealed a flattering smile on his face. His 4 vertical pupils shone like little stars in the sky. Little fairy, you are the lover that I have been waiting for tens of thousands of years. We must have made an agreement in our previous life. Get lost. Damn it, whose dream did this damn Meng Yanshou see before? How could it be so similar to the lines in the storybook? Little fairy, actually, as long as you destroy the statue on the round platform outside, I will be able to leave this broken temple. However, I am a remnant soul, so you have to help me find something to hide, Meng Yanshou said flatteringly. Is the 10,000-year-old green jade porcelain bottle okay? Yun Chuju was now familiar with collecting remnant souls. That's not necessary. I was born out of human greed. My soul won't dissipate when I'm outside. Moreover, the heavenly lightning can't kill me, so under normal circumstances the heavenly lightning won't strike me. Just help me find the body of a demonic beast. I've been trapped for tens of thousands of years. I can enjoy a body too. Meng Yanshou swallowed his saliva. It had been a long time since he ate anything. The fruit that the black-hearted little girl ate looked very delicious. Yun Chuju touched her chin. It would be great if this Meng Yanshou could attract the heavenly lightning. Therefore she could not find a host that was too strong for it. It would be best if the host was weak and the heavenly lightning felt that it would be easy to kill it, since it would not die anyway. She could just change the host when the time came. Therefore a certain Geo took out a wind-blade rabbit from the great void mystic realm. Here I only have this one living demon beast here. Make do with it first. I will help you find another powerful demon beast when I have time. The poor nightmare beast did not know He Xingjia's plan. Although it despised Meng Yanshou, it felt that at least it had legs and a mouth. It did not hinder it from eating, so it was still okay. Therefore the miserable nightmare beast started the miserable days of changing its shell countless times. When Yun Chujio saw the half-soul of the nightmare beast enter the body of the wind-blade rabbit, it successfully possessed Meng Yanshou almost instantly. However, it was also true that the wind-blade rabbit was the lowest-level demon beast. Its spiritual sense could not compare with the nightmare beast at all. Haha, I can finally go out and have fun. Little fairy, hurry up and destroy the statue, then I can go out. Meng Yanshou, who had just come out of the oven, was jumping with joy. Yun Chujio frowned. Curly hair, that's not right. You said that you provided the Nightmare Clan with Nightmare Chi. Could it be that they don't know how to cultivate Nightmare Chi and are only here to absorb you? Moreover, you're only half a soul. How can you release the Nightmare Chi? Moreover, you're continuously releasing the Nightmare Chi? Meng Yanshou's eyes flickered as he said perfunctorily, their Nightmare Clan can also cultivate the Nightmare Chi. It's just that their speed is slow. That's why they came here to take advantage of me. Yun Chujio snorted coldly. Don't play tricks with me. Answer my second question. How can you have so much Nightmare Chi to release? Not to mention that you're half a soul now, even your main body can't continuously release Nightmare Chi, right? Moreover, your natural talent is to weave dreams, not release Nightmare Chi. Meng Yanshou's heart turned cold. He knew that this black-hearted girl was not easy to fool. He originally thought that she had overlooked this point, but he didn't expect that she would still discover it. Little fairy, all right. Since you have discovered it, I will tell you the truth. However, there are some things that I cannot say. Once I say it, I will be punished by Tiandao. It is not as simple as heavenly thunder, Meng Yanshou said with a drooping head. Tell me what you can. If you dare to lie to me again, I will make you into a curly-haired rabbit. He Xingjia's heart moved. It was not bad to give the rabbit a perm. This was more in line with Curly Hair's name. Meng Yanshou did not know what He Xingji was thinking. He said honestly, the progenitor of the nightmare race is not that bastard from before. They did not live in the immortal Yuan continent. It was just that during the great war between the gods and demons, the nightmare race defected to the demons, so the entire race was tricked into coming to the immortal Yuan continent. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Yun Chujio asked in surprise, what did you say? They were tricked by the demon race. You mean the Yen race came to the immortal Yuan continent later? Then where is their nest? Meng Yanshou curled his lips and said, the Yen race is famous for being a fence-sitter. At the beginning they submitted to the human race. Later, when they saw that the demon race had gained the upper hand, they submitted to the demon race. The demon clan promised that if they occupied the immortal essence continent, they would hand it over to the Yen clan. Therefore the Yen clan stupidly left their original place of living and ran to the immortal essence continent. In the end, the demon clan suffered a great defeat and the Yen clan was driven to the far west. Damn it, this originally had nothing to do with me. I didn't expect that half of my soul was set up by that bastard. That's why I was imprisoned here to release the Yen Chi for them. You've been talking for a long time. Where did the nightmare race originally live? How did you release the nightmare Chi? The place where the nightmare race originally lived was called the Dark Continent. They couldn't see the sun all year round, but the nightmare Chi was abundant. It was like the spiritual Chi in the immortal essence continent. They could cultivate any time and anywhere. Unfortunately, the nightmare race wasn't satisfied and insisted on occupying the immortal essence continent. It serves them right that their nightmare Chi is getting harder and harder to cultivate. Meng Yanshou gloated. Get to the point. How did you release the nightmare aura? The Meng Yanshou said coyly, the result of humans' greed, insidiousness and other negative emotions. The nightmare aura of the Dark Continent is also born from the negative emotions of all living things in the world. Therefore, I was able to establish a connection with the Dark Continent and occasionally create some nightmare aura. Yun Chujio looked at the coyly Meng Yanshou with amusement. You're not a good person to begin with and you're actually embarrassed? Meng Yanshou said indignantly. Although I'm not a good person, I'm still better than the Yen clan. I'm just a fence sitter and they even imprison me. They deserve to never return to the Dark Continent. Bah. Yun Chujio was stunned. Since they can come out from the Dark Continent, why can't they return? Meng Yanshou covered its mouth with its claws. You can't tell me, you can't tell me. Yun Chujio had seen the merman tell those remnant souls about the painful situation after that, so she didn't force Meng Yanshou. After all, she wasn't a member of the Nightmare Clan, so it had nothing to do with her whether they went back or not. The most important thing now was to let Meng Yanshou go first, and then think of a way to leave the territory of the Nightmare Clan. However, there were guards outside. If she went out like this, she definitely wouldn't be able to destroy the round platform. Therefore Yun Chujio said to Meng Yanshou, "We've a dream for them. Tell them to stand at the door so that I can destroy the round stage and let you out." The Meng Yanshou looked at Yun Chujio pitifully. "Little fairy, if I could weave a dream here, I would have released myself long ago." Yun Chujio, she was also confused. That's right. If the Meng Yanshou could weave a dream, it would have run away by itself long ago. How could it stay here and be sullen? Yun Chujio frowned and thought for a moment, then said, "Curly hair, do you know the ancient language of the Yen clan?" The Meng Yanshou said rather smugly, "No." Yun Chujio, "Fuck, if you don't know, why are you showing off? What's wrong with you? Since you don't understand their ancient language, why are they chanting the Zhu Wen and using the ancient language?" Yun Chujio asked in confusion. "They are just pretending. They are just showing off their knowledge." Bah. Meng Yanshou said disdainfully. Yun Chujio, it seemed that Meng Yanshou's resentment towards the Yen race was unusually deep. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. "It's fine even if you don't speak the ancient language. You know how to play tricks, don't you? Tell them to go to the main hall in front and kneel down to recite the blessing. Then I'll take the opportunity to destroy your statue at the back." Meng Yanshou said, "I'm good at this. Otherwise, I would have been bored to death all these years. Fortunately, I'm smart enough to trick them into offering sacrifices to me when they have nothing to do. Then I can enter the dream of the sacrifice and take a stroll. Little fairy, let me tell you, I saw a lot of fun things in their dreams, such as secret trysts and visiting fragrant pink houses." "Shut up. Hurry up and get down to business." Yun Chujio kicked Meng Yanshou and Meng Yanshou was instantly kicked to the corner of the wall. For the first time, Meng Yanshou felt that its host body was not that good. It was too weak. The little girl could kick it away with one kick. The Meng Yanshou did not dare to disobey He Xinjiu, hence, it pretended to be in a bad mood and shouted to the outside, "This sacred beast is in a bad mood. All of you scram to the main hall in front and recite the blessing. If one of you does not go, this sacred beast will not release the nightmare chi in the future." The people of the Meng Yanshou believed in the sacred beast without a doubt. How could they doubt whether the Meng Yanshou was telling the truth or not? They immediately ran to the main hall in front and recited the blessing. Yun Chujio opened a crack in the door of the sacrificial temple and looked outside. When she realized that there were indeed no guards, she opened the door softly and slipped out. As for the Meng Yanshou, it wanted to come out, but it was blocked by an invisible barrier. It could not come out at all. Yun Chujio carefully went around to the back. When she passed by the waterfall, a question flashed through Yun Chujio's mind. What was going on with this bath? She would have to ask Curly Hair in a while. When Yun Chujio rushed to the round platform, she was troubled. She couldn't use the talisman seal in the far west, so how could she destroy this statue? If she used heavenly lightning to strike, the commotion would be too big and it would inevitably attract the guards in front. If she used a large kitchen knife to strike, there would also be a big commotion. It was better to use a small flame to burn it. Therefore He Xinjiu and the small flame discussed for a while and released the small flame. The small flame started to burn the statue of Meng Yanshou. Very soon the statue separated from the disc below. The guy's eyes lit up. So the disc was the array disc. It was filled with top-grade spirit stones. Of course, the guy didn't stand on ceremony. He put all the top-grade spirit stones into his storage ring. Then he let the small flame burn the array disc to a pulp. Only then did he walk toward the sacrificial temple. Just as he reached the waterfall, he saw a wind-blade rabbit hopping over. Yunchujie was completely speechless. This was the first time she had seen a wind-blade rabbit hopping around so happily. If she gave it a pair of wings, it would be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun. Little fairy, I knew it. You are the man that I have been waiting for 10,000 years. I will be your beast from now on. You must be responsible for me. Yunchujie grabbed the 2 rabbit ears of the Meng Yanshou and said, "Speak in human language. By the way, let me ask you, why do all the people who come here to absorb the nightmare aura have to go to the waterfall to bathe?" The eyes of the Meng Yanshou flickered. Clean. I am a baby who likes to be clean. I don't like the stench of those people. Speak in human language. The Meng Yanshou coughed dryly. Ahem, actually, this is because when they bathe, it is inevitable that they will think of something. When I enter their dreams, I will be able to see many interesting scenes. Yunchujie, no wonder this damned curly hair had said all those messy things about the powder house. It had all come from this. This curly hair with impure thoughts. The nightmare beast obviously felt a little embarrassed as well. It coughed twice and said, that little fairy am also bored. Who would be bored after being locked up for such a long time? Let's think of a way to get out. Meng Yanshou said. Yunchujie pondered for a moment and asked Meng Yanshou, how long does it take for you to fabricate a dream? How wide is the range of radiation? Meng Yanshou rolled his eyes guiltily. Little fairy, you also know that I'm half a soul and I've been locked up for a long time. Speak human language. In short, that's right. My current ability has deteriorated a lot, and I'll need a long time to recover after using it once. However, it's not a problem for me to let those people in front fall into a dream. Yunchujie pondered for a moment. Then weave a dream for them and let them think that the sacred beast has shown its spirit. Tell them that the nightmare race has offended the heavens by attacking the human race, which is why the round stage was destroyed by the heavenly fire. The sacred beast has also left the nightmare race. The nightmare beast immediately began to weave a dream. When Yunchujie arrived at the sacrificial hall in front, she discovered that everyone was kneeling on the ground in a daze. It was obvious that they had fallen into a dream. Princess Pian Pian and the others were not among them. They had probably already left the land of Meng Yanshou. Yunchujie felt that now was the best time for her to escape. Meng Yanshou had already woven the dream. Most of these people thought that she had already been eaten by Meng Yanshou and would not be searching for her. Her transfiguration pill had already reached its expiry date. If she slightly changed her original appearance, they might not be able to discover her. This fellow was also a little reluctant to part with the remaining disguise pill. It would be better to save it for a critical time in the future. Yunchujie thought of this and slipped out of the land of the Nightmare Lord. She recalled the route she took and slipped away along the direction of the vast desert. She left in a good mood. The Nightmare clan was in an uproar. When the guards told the Nightmare Lord about what they had dreamt of, the Nightmare Lord immediately fainted. The land of the Nightmare ancestors had been passed down for tens of thousands of years, but it had actually been destroyed by him. The 4 great families had always been eyeing the position of the Nightmare King with covetous eyes, and now they were even more aggressive. It was because He Xinjiu had said in the dream that it was because the nightmare race had attacked the human race that the heavens had become angry. Aog, who had suggested attacking the human race, had been the first to bear the brunt, and had become a sinner of the nightmare race. The 4 great clans had joined forces to force the king and the queen to be imprisoned, forcing Aog to retreat to the far west and hand over military power. The 4 great clans did not have the ambition to conquer the human race for the time being, so their current goal was only to seize control of the nightmare race. As for how they would split the spoils, that was a matter for another day. Aog was meditating on the battlefield, trying to break through the human race's defensive line. Who would have thought that He Xinjiu would set fire to the backyard, and it was that kind of blazing demonic fire. Aog had no choice but to lead the nightmare race army back to the territory of the nightmare race's influence. No matter what, he had to settle the internal matters of the nightmare race first. The 4 great clans also held a portion of military power in their hands, and so the 2 sides began to fight. After disguising herself, He Xinjiu had originally wanted to leave the territory of the nightmare race's influence. Who would have thought that this fire was too fierce? The borders of the nightmare race had become a battlefield, and this fellow still had no way of leaving. This fellow really regretted it. If he had known earlier, he would not have cheated that farting crown prince. Was this considered throwing a stone at his own feet? Hei Xingjiu cursed in her heart. Alliance Master Yen and his group of old fogies actually didn't take advantage of the infighting in the nightmare race to take advantage of the situation. She really didn't know whether to call them gentlemen or cowards. She could even guess what Alliance Master Yen and the others were thinking. Anyway, the nightmare race had already retreated back into their sphere of influence. As long as they didn't let the nightmare race invade again, it would be fine. However, what Hei Xingjiu was more concerned about now was the frequent battles at the border. How could she leave the territory of the Yen clan? Hei Xingjiu had no way to leave for the time being. She could only find an inn to stay. This fellow lived in seclusion and was very sweet-mouthed. He did not cause any trouble. After these few days of contact, Yun Chuju discovered that the Yen clan people were actually not much different from the humans. Their way of life was basically the same as how they lived in the world. What fence-sitters and whatnot, it was just a decision made by the higher-ups. The nightmare race people below just followed orders. Therefore, Yun Chuji's initial hatred towards the nightmare race had calmed down quite a bit. As for the nightmare beast, other than eating all day long, it would read the storybooks that Yun Chujio had collected. It read them with great interest and would even discuss the plot with Hei Xingjiu when it was free. Little fairy, you are a woman who has married several husbands. Do you have a storybook where a man marries many women? It is best to describe it vividly. It would be even better if there are illustrations. Meng Yanxi's eyes were originally red, now it was even redder after staying up all night. Yun Chujio kicked it to a corner. Get lost. You impure curly hair. Meng Yanxi was sullen. Why was it impure? He allowed her to see what she liked, but he couldn't see what he liked. No matter what, he hadn't married yet. What was wrong with learning first? Bad silver. Hei Xingjiu was venting her anger. She was burning with anxiety and wanted to return to the primordial chaos sect as soon as possible. This fellow was afraid that Di Biming would find out that she had meddled with the Nightmare clan after coming out of the mystic realm and punish her. On this day, Hei Xingjiu took out the map of the Yen clan. After looking around, she discovered something. This fellow discovered that other than the area of battle, there was a small area that could be left from the far west. She could not help but wonder why was there no one guarding that area. She asked indirectly, and only then did she know that that was the famous poisonous miasma area. The humans and the Yen clan had no way of passing through it. Therefore, neither the humans nor the Yen clan had any intention of going there. Hei Xingjiu was delighted. Other people were afraid of the poisonous gas, but she wasn't. She could just leave from there and take a detour to leave the Yen clan's territory. The eyes of the Meng Yanxiu flickered. Little fairy, you'd better not take the risk. That poisonous miasma area has existed since the beginning. No one has ever been able to pass through it. You'll be courting death if you go. Curly hair, you don't know that. I'm not afraid of poison. The more poisonous, the better. Yun Chujio was too happy to notice Meng Yanxi's flickering eyes. Meng Yanxiu found all kinds of reasons again, such as the stench, the lack of food, and the detours, but none of them could stop Yun Chujio's determination to leave the poisonous miasma area. Curly hair, you're so strong in stopping me from passing through the poisonous miasma area. You're not hiding anything from me, are you? Yun Chujio finally noticed that something was wrong with Meng Yanxiu. The Meng Yanxiu shook its head like a rattle drum. I'm just worried about your safety. I'm your beast now. If anything happens to you, I won't be able to live. Yun Chujio saw that the Meng Yanxiu didn't seem to be lying, so she believed it and took a detour to the miasma area. The Meng Yanxiu felt as if it had seen a ghost. It had never expected that the little girl with a black heart would go to the miasma area. Oh God, it wasn't to be blamed for this. I hadn't said anything. A few days later, Hei Xingjiu arrived at the edge of the miasma area. Even at the edge of the miasma district, there were no activities of the Yen clansmen. There were only some low shrubs on the ground. The miasma district in the distance was shrouded in white mist. There was no movement at all. It was dead silent. Curly hair, Are there any demonic beasts in this miasma district? Yun Chujio asked Meng Yanshou, who was still diligently reading the script in the spiritual beast bag. I've already said that it's the miasma district. Of course there are no demonic beasts. Not to mention demonic beasts, there aren't even demonic insects. There are poisonous plants inside. Little fairy, don't be stubborn. Don't go in. Let's think of another way to leave the far west region. Yun Chujio ignored him and walked into the poisonous miasma zone. The poisonous miasma zone was indeed filled with poisonous plants. Yun Chujio recognized some of them, but she had never seen some in the ancient books. Here it was like a paradise for guaichao. The poisonous plants that people avoided were all delicious guaichao. Guaichao kept ordering Yun Chujio to chew and swallow them, and those that could not be eaten would be taken away with their bags. Meng Yanshou's red rabbit eyes widened. "Io? No wonder this black-hearted little girl wanted to pass through the miasma area. It turned out that she was really not afraid of poison." Meng Yanshou muttered in his heart. It was good that she was not afraid of poison, but she must never encounter such a situation. He felt so stifled in his heart. He clearly knew that he shouldn't have come here, but he couldn't tell the truth. He was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Forget it, let's just read the storybook. Children and grandchildren will have their own fortune. If Yun Chujio knew that this guy was abusing his words, she would probably kick him away. Who the fuck is your son and grandson? Shameless. Yun Chujio picked the poisonous plants and asked Meng Yanshou, "Curly hair, there's nothing here. Isn't there just some poisonous plants? After so many years no one can pass through here?" Meng Yanshou almost vomited blood. "Nothing? Do you know that the poisonous plants in your hand right now can kill hundreds of people with just a drop of poison? Do you know that the poisonous fog in this poisonous miasma area can make people bleed to death just by inhaling a little bit? It was easy for you to say that just by standing there." Of course, these were all the inner complaints of Meng Yanshou, but he said flatteringly, "Little fairy, it's not that there's no danger here, but you're too strong. You'd better hurry up and try to get out before dark." Yun Chujio curled her lips. This curly hair was becoming more and more obsequious. At this moment, Yun Chujio noticed a few wisps of black fog drifting in front of her. Yun Chujio was stunned. "Curly hair, why is there a black fog in this white fog?" Meng Yanshou almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What it was afraid of came true. It was over. Was it too late for it to return to the sacrificial temple and become a holy beast? Sabsabi, I regret it. This black-hearted bitch was just unlucky. How could it just happen to bump into her? Yun Chujio saw that Meng Yanshou didn't say anything and asked again. Meng Yanshou could only reply listlessly, I don't know anything." Although Yun Chujio felt that this fellow was hiding something from her, she knew that she would not be able to find out even if she asked, so she decided not to ask it. Anyway, this fellow had always believed that no matter what difficulties he encountered, there would always be a solution. Chapter 2992. Regret for 10,000 years. Yun Chujio suddenly frowned. Why did this black fog look like a nightmare aura? Wasn't this the miasma area? How could there be a nightmare aura? Although Yun Chujio was puzzled, she still continued to walk forward. Regardless of whether it was a poison aura or a nightmare aura, she would think about it after she got out. After walking for a while, Yun Chujio noticed that the nightmare aura was getting denser. Could it be that the direction she was walking towards was the source of the nightmare aura? Looking at the increasingly denser nightmare aura and the cover of the Meng Yanshou, Yun Chujio had a vague guess. Could it be that the so-called entrance of the Dark Continent was in this poisonous miasma area? No wonder the Meng Yanshou said that the people of the Yen clan could never return. This place was full of poisonous gas, and the people of the Yen clan indeed couldn't enter. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking, she found that there was indeed a black nightmare aura coming out from a cave in the distance, drifting away. Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. Previously, Meng Yanshou had said that it could establish a connection with the Dark Continent. What a load of crap. It turned out that Meng Yanshou had established a connection with the nightmare aura in this toxic miasma area. Yun Chujio walked to the hole and took a closer look. She saw that it was a hole that could allow one person to enter. It was so deep that one could not see the bottom. Nightmare aura was constantly coming out from it. So, this was the barrier that should lead to the Dark Continent. No wonder the nightmare race could still cultivate nightmare chi in the far west. Although the amount of nightmare chi in this poisonous miasma area was small, it was better than nothing. When this fellow thought of this, bad water started to surface. If she blocked this place, wouldn't the nightmare race be unable to cultivate nightmare chi anymore? Let's see if they can still show off. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. The more this fellow thought about it, the more proud he became. Thus he took out a large rock from his storage ring and covered the entrance of the cave tightly. TCE, my little Ninth Alliance Master is indeed the nemesis of the nightmare race. The nightmare race will no longer have the nightmare aura. They will definitely not dare to attack the human race anymore. The world will be at peace. Little fairy, since the nightmare aura has been covered, let's leave this place quickly. The nightmare beast urged Meng Yanshou. Curly hair, I haven't settled the score with you yet. Previously you said that you were in contact with the Dark Continent. What bullshit is that? So it turns out that you are in contact with the nightmare aura here. Help. Meng Yanshou sighed. I knew it. This was great. It probably wouldn't be able to return to its original form anymore. As it turned out, just as Yun Chujio was scolding Meng Yanshou, the stone that was originally covering the entrance of the cave was flipped over by a wave of air. Moreover, there was a huge suction force from within and Unlucky 9 was sucked in. After an unknown amount of time, Unlucky 9 fell on her butt. When this fellow opened his eyes, he saw that she seemed to have fallen into a huge bird's nest. There was a blood-red full moon in the sky. No matter how he looked at it, it looked extremely demonic. Hey curly hair, could it be that I've been teleported to the Dark Continent? Little fairy, I told you not to enter the poison miasma area, but you didn't listen. I told you to leave quickly, but you didn't listen. Now it's fine. The people of the Dark Continent's Meng Yanshou have all left. This place is now filled with nightmare beasts. Just wait for your death. The nightmare beast said unhappily. You curly hair, you still want to teach me a lesson? You've provoked me, so I'll confiscate your speech book. I'll let you have so much free time that you'll bang your head against the wall. Little fairy, a peerless beauty, a stunningly talented little fairy. I was just joking with you just now. You're so powerful, how could those nightmare beasts be your match? We can definitely leave this place. Although the nightmare beast said that, it felt as if it had seen a ghost in its heart. Meng Yanshou's heart was filled with regret. Damn it, if it had known earlier, it would have obediently become the nightmare race's sacred beast. At least it would have been able to look at those people's dreams. Ubi sob regret for 10,000 years. Chapter 29-23. Open your rabbit eyes wide. Yun Chujio didn't pay attention to that idiot Meng Yanshou. She raised her head and looked around. There was nothing but the moon in the sky. Then the problem came. Where was the teleportation array from before? How was she going to return? Could it be that she would become the only human in this Dark Continent in the future? Curly hair, the teleportation array from before has disappeared. How are we going to leave this place? Meng Yanshou said listlessly, I've never been to this Dark Continent. I don't know how to leave either. It said that it was the demon race who helped the Yanshou people to leave. Yun Chujio didn't have much hope at first, so she wasn't too surprised to hear Meng Yanshou say that. She looked around and found 3 bird eggs and some feathers in the bird nest. Since there were birds here, there shouldn't be any restrictions on flying. Thus, this fellow took out a chopping board and flew out of the bird's nest unsteadily. When this fellow was about to leave, he had originally wanted to steal a bird egg. However, after thinking for the sake of unnecessary trouble, he had only kept the few feathers into his storage ring. This fellow looked around in midair. This place seemed to be within a mountain range. However, it made sense. Since there were no more nightmare clansmen, their territory was naturally occupied by the nightmare beasts. They didn't know if the original city of the nightmare clansmen was still there or not. Perhaps they could find some clues from there. After flying for 3 whole days, they encountered a few nightmare beasts along the way. However, those nightmare beasts probably hadn't seen such food before, or they felt that the food was too small. In short, they didn't attack Hei Xinjiu. On this day, Hei Xinjiu was sitting on the chopping board, happily eating wild fruits. Suddenly, her eyes widened and she pulled Meng Yanshou out of the spiritual beast bag. Curly hair, open your rabbit eyes and take a look. What's that down there? Didn't you say that there were only nightmare beasts here? What's that? Meng Yanshou rubbed his red eyes with his claws. It was actually a member of the nightmare race down there? How could there be a member of the nightmare race here? Didn't they say that they had gone to the immortal Yuan continent back then? Little fairy, I've only heard about it, so it's inevitable that there will be some discrepancies. It's good that there are people. Perhaps they know where the teleportation array is. Meng Yanshou said in a fawning manner. Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks. Yun Chujiu rolled her eyes. No matter what, she had to first make up an identity to sneak in, and then slowly plot her way in. The people of the Yen clan below had obviously seen Yun Chujiu as well. After all, what they had seen before were all people riding swords. This was the first time they had seen a chopping board. Curly hair, aren't you able to seduce the Yen Qi? When you need it later, you can make a few strands for me. Do you hear me? Meng Yanshou obediently agreed. Only then did Yun Chujiu order the chopping board to fall to the ground. Yun Chujiu did not dare to speak first. If these people were speaking in the ancient language of the Yen clan, she would be exposed. One of the elders smiled and said, #%? Yun Chujiu, what she was afraid of came true. What should she do now? This fellow was quick-witted. He used his hand to point at his throat and then pointed at his ear. He used his hand to gesture a few times, indicating that he could not speak or hear. Those people took a look. It turned out to be a deaf mute. How pitiful. Those people looked at the clothes on Yun Chujiu and shook their heads. This little girl was probably very poor. Even poor people like them wore much better clothes than her. Actually, the clothes on Hei Xinjia's body were originally good. However, for the sake of picking wild fruits, not only was her face dirty, but her clothes were also tattered and dirty. Before she had the time to change, she saw these people. The old man said a few words to the others, then waved at Yun Chujiu and made a hand gesture to follow them. Hei Xinjiu couldn't ask for more. She nodded her head gratefully and followed these people out of the valley. After following those people out of the valley, Yun Chujiu first arrived at a town. It turned out that these people had sold some of the nightmare beasts they had hunted to shops in exchange for some nightmare stones. Then they used the nightmare stones to buy some rice that looked similar to spiritual rice and some daily necessities. Only then did Yun Chujiu remember a question. Those nightmare clansmen from the immortal Yuan continent also had nightmare stones. Where did they get their nightmare stones from? Meng Yanshou pursed his lips. Isn't it simple? They took it with them when they left the Dark Continent. Yun Chujiu thought that it made sense. When those people left, they naturally took away all the valuable things, and the nightmare stone was the first to bear the brunt of it. Presumably, the nightmare stone mines that had been discovered at that time had all been swept away. Yun Chujiu also discovered a problem. There were more men and fewer women in the Yen clan on the streets. The men were almost twice as many as the women. Even the not-so-good-looking women from the Yen clan were fawned over by a few men. Yun Chujiu's heart skipped a beat. No wonder these people accepted her so readily. Could it be that they were planning to marry her off? After all, there seemed to be fewer women here. Yun Chujiu weighed the pros and cons in her heart and decided to follow these people. After all, not only was she not familiar with the roads, but she was also not fluent in the language. These people's spiritual powers were not very high. If they had any bad ideas, she could totally deal with them. Therefore, Yun Chujiu continued to follow those people out of the town without batting an eyelid. After making several turns, they arrived at a village. Soon, some old people and children came out of the village. Occasionally, a few women could be seen, but each of them was like a young lady from a big family. They were extremely arrogant. Because they had walked for a long time, Yun Chujiu's face was covered in sweat. She took out a handkerchief and wiped her face. When those women saw Yun Chujiu's appearance, they clearly showed hostility. They asked the old man who brought Yun Chujiu back in a questioning tone. After the old man said a few words, those women revealed gloating expressions, then they twisted their waists and left. Although Yun Chujiu couldn't understand the old man's words, she guessed that the old man said that she couldn't speak and couldn't hear, so those women had a sense of superiority and left. Only then did Yun Chujiu realize that the appearance of the Yen clansmen here was far inferior to those people from the immortal Yuan continent, which was why those women showed hostility towards her. After those women left, some young men pointed at Yunchujio as if they were criticizing her. In the end they even started to fight. Hei Shinjio stood at the side and watched coldly. Was this the decision of her ownership? Damn it, then let's see who is unlucky enough to win. The last burly man won the final victory. He walked in front of Yunchujio with a big grin on his face. He mumbled and then reached out to pull Yunchujio's hand. Yunchujio waved her hand repeatedly and pretended to be shy. The burly man laughed and mumbled a few more words, then motioned for Yunchujio to follow him. A faint light flashed across Yunchujio's eyes. The exciting journey to the Dark Continent should start from this idiot. Yunchujio followed the burly man to a courtyard at the west end of the village. It was obvious that he was the only one in the burly man's house. The burly man directly brought Hei Shinjio into the inner room. The burly man's mind was filled with lust. It was not easy for him to finally get married. Although he was deaf and dumb, he was still good-looking. When the big man was about to enjoy the beauty, he saw the beauty smirk and then nothing. When the burly man woke up, he found that his spiritual power had already been restrained. The little girl was holding a large kitchen knife and sharpening it. The sizzling sound was simply hair-raising. The burly man instinctively wanted to scream, but he realized that he couldn't make a sound and his body couldn't move. After a series of friendly communication, the burly man finally understood that he was not marrying a beauty, but a fucking jinx. Moreover, he also understood that it was not that the beauty could not hear or speak, but that she could not understand their words. Fairy, please spare my life. Fairy, please spare my life. The burly man suddenly spoke in human language. Yunchujio was stunned. You can speak human language? The burly man was like a dog that was bawling. He was clearly speaking human language before, alright? After Yunchujio interrogated him for a while, she finally understood the general situation. Back then, when the demon race tricked the nightmare race to move to the immortal origin continent, the royal family of the nightmare race and the nobles naturally followed them. The remaining poor or ugly nightmare race women were not taken away. Yunchujio ridiculed in her heart. They abandoned them just because they didn't look good? The Yen clan was really a strange species that looked at faces. The remaining Yen clan people first coexisted peacefully. Gradually, some of them became ambitious. As time passed, they formed the royal family, the nobles and the commoners. Moreover, the Yen clan that stayed back then were mostly men, which resulted in the situation where there were more men and fewer women. Only a small number of the nightmare race members understood the human language, and even fewer of the remaining people understood the human language. The reason why the burly man knew the human language was because he was originally a noble. Later, when his family caused trouble, he ended up in this village. This was the reason why he lived alone. What's your name? Go air. The burly man said in ancient nightmare language. Dog or dog too? Whatever, I'll call you dog too from now on. The burly man. Little fairy, what I said just now is the language of the nightmare race. If it is expressed in human language, my family name is Sha and am Xingjio, so I'm called Shajio. The burly man did not want to be called dog too. Little did he know that it would have been better if he had not said that. As soon as he said that, Hei Shinjio kicked him in the face. You can either let me kill you or call me dog too. It's your choice. Buttface, who had just come out of the oven, did not know that he had accidentally stepped on Hei Xinjia's cat tail. He could only comfort himself. After all, most people did not understand the human language, so he would just call him Buttface. Yunchujio understood the general knowledge here and asked about the teleportation array indirectly, but Face shook his head repeatedly. Little fairy, this is a secret of the Dark Continent. How would I know? If you want to know, you will have to ask the royal family or the nobles. Yunchujio thought about it and agreed, so she said to Buttface, start teaching me your words now. When I learn it, I'll let you go. Buttface felt bitter in his heart. Did he learn it? Oh God, how could he learn it in less than 2 or 3 years? He was really unlucky. If he knew that this was a freaking jinx, he would have lost to those people. But now, not only did he get Buttface's name, but he was also trapped here to teach her the language of the nightmare race. What a fucking dog. Although Buttface was unwilling, he had no choice but to use the pen and paper that Yunchujio gave him to teach Yunchujio the ancient language of the nightmare race. After teaching her, Buttface was dumbfounded. This person was fucking inhuman. He was simply a monster. Buttface was shocked to find that the little girl in front of him was able to learn it as soon as she taught it. She was able to draw inferences from one example. What, 3 years or 2 years? She would probably be able to communicate daily in 2 days. 5 days later, Yunchujio had almost mastered the ancient language of the nightmare race. Other than some unfamiliar words, she could basically break away from being addressed as illiterate. Buttface, come with me. What can you do in this small village? You were a noble in the past, so why are you reduced to a small villager now? Come follow me. I'll take you to fly with me. Heishinjio started to trick Buttface. How could Buttface resist Heizinjio's trick? He was tricked by Heishinjio and became her follower. Heishinjio left the village with Buttface. Before Buttface left, he said, "Little fairy, you are too good-looking. It is inevitable that you will be targeted by the nobles. It is better for you to make yourself ugly." Yunchujio thought about it and agreed. It was better to make things less troublesome. Hence, she made her face sallow and drew a figure-8 eyebrow. She smiled at Buttface and said, "Buttface, is this ugly enough?" Buttface fell to the ground. He thought to himself that even if the Nightmare clan lacked women, no one would want this honor for free. It was too damn ugly. When the people in the village saw Heishinjio behind Buttface, they were all dumbfounded. What did Goer do? How did he turn a delicate beauty into a hag? 5 days later, Yunchujio and Buttface arrived at the capital of the Nightmare clan, which was also the capital where the royal and noble families of the Nightmare clan gathered. As soon as she entered the city, Heishinjio noticed a phenomenon. There were more men than women in other places, but why were more than half of the people on the street women? Moreover, the women were all shy and had obviously dressed up meticulously. What were they doing? Shengzun, I didn't expect that the Lord of the Nightmare clan would finally come back after waiting for so many years. Yeah, I thought that we had been abandoned. I never thought that the Shengzun would not forget us and return. I heard that the Shengzun is very handsome. If I could meet the Shengzun, I would have died in peace. Yunchujio was stunned. Shengzun? Pandan 0VL Erguzi, who is the Shengzun? Little fairy, according to legend, the Yen clan members who left back then were brought out of the Dark Continent by the Shengzun. A few days ago, there was a rumor that the Shengzun had returned to the Dark Continent and is now living in the Imperial Palace. Yunchujio's heart skipped a beat. Curly Hair had said that it was the demon who had brought the Yen tribesmen out of the Dark Continent. Could it be that the so-called Shengzun was a demon? However, no matter what, that Shengzun definitely had a way to leave the Dark Continent. It would be best if she could think of a way to get close to that Shengzun. However, that Shengzun was in the Imperial Palace. How could she get close to him? Just as Yunchujio was worrying, a team of guards walked over. The leader was an old woman. When the old woman saw Yunchujio, she immediately nodded with satisfaction. It's her. Yunchujio was dumbfounded. What did she mean by it's her? Granny, who are you? Where are you taking me? Heishinjio asked with a trembling voice. Of course, she was speaking the ancient language of the Yen clan. Our princess is going to choose a few new palace maids to serve her. Your looks are just right. Cut the crap. It's your fortune to be able to serve our princess in the Imperial Palace. The old woman said arrogantly. Heishinjio was ecstatic. Granny, really? I can serve the princess in the Imperial Palace? I'm really grateful to your ancestors. The old woman. No matter how the old woman listened, she felt that Yunchujio's words were strange. However, it was not easy to find such an ugly person. If her words were not pleasant to hear, then so be it. Grandma, my brother is strong and strong. Can you let him enter the palace as a guard? Don't say that you can't make the decision. I can see that you are someone who can speak to the princess. Such a small matter is simply a small matter to you. The old woman was almost lost by Heizinjia's words, so she brought Buttface along with her. Buttface was dumbfounded. He had thought that the little girl of Heishinjia was just boasting. He didn't expect that he would become a guard of the Imperial Palace the moment he entered the city of Han. This was even more mysterious than a dream. Buttface's thoughts were quickly interrupted by the shrieks of a group of women. It turned out that the women had found out that the old woman was actually choosing palace maids. They pushed themselves toward the old woman without caring about their own safety. "Grandma, choose me to enter the palace as well. As long as I can enter the palace, I can even be a rough palace maid washing clothes." "That's right, Grandma, the one you chose is too ugly. If you're not careful, you might scare the Lord. If I'm beautiful, then choose me." "Grandma, choose me. I don't want a monthly salary. As long as I can enter the palace and take a look at the Lord, I'll die without any regrets." "Xingzun," said the old woman, snorted. "You want to see the Lord? Is the Lord someone you can see? Get out of the way. If you don't get out of the way, you will be thrown into prison." Hearing the old woman's words, the women all moved aside. However, their jealous eyes stabbed at He Xingjiu like knives. This ugly freak was really lucky. She had actually been chosen to enter the palace. It was really unfair. He Xingjiu curled her lips. She could roughly guess why the old woman had chosen her. It was because she was ugly. There was a high chance that the princess adored the Lord. With this ugly freak acting as a foil, she could become a fairy even if she looked ordinary. Yun Chujio followed the old woman to the Nightmare Clan's imperial palace. Along the way, He Xingjia's small mouth was as sweet as honey. She coaxed the old woman until her old face looked like a flower. Buttface thought to himself, this little devil can literally talk a dead person alive. He was completely convinced. The scale of the imperial palace of the Yen clan was huge. Moreover, it was obvious that it was not newly built. It was highly likely that it was left behind by the Yen clan's people in the past. Yun Chujio followed the old woman to a palace. The plaque on it read, "Forget Worry Palace." Before entering the door, the old woman whispered, "When you see Princess Wang Yu in a while, be smart. Otherwise, I won't be able to protect you." "Nanichi, don't worry. I know what to do," He Xingjiu said gratefully. The old woman, who was also Nanichi, sent a palace maid in to report to the princess. Yun Chujio glanced around and found that the palace maids in Wang Yu Palace all looked very ordinary, which further confirmed her guess. She stood out because she was ugly. A moment later, the palace maid signaled for the two of them to enter. After Yun Chujio entered, she caught a glimpse of a woman sitting on the main seat from the corner of her eye. She looked slightly better than the average person, but she was dressed exquisitely and beautifully. This was probably the Princess Wang Yu that the old woman had mentioned. Yun Chujio bowed to Princess Wang Yu according to the old woman's instructions, and then obediently stopped talking. Princess Wang Yu sized up Yun Chujio's appearance and nodded in satisfaction. "Nanichi, you did well. This palace maid fits my requirements very well. From now on you shall be called Ru Hua. You may leave first." You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.